Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Adam Green here with nomorenews.org. Today is Thursday, January 30th, 2020. And today we are going to be discussing the dangerous, alarming, secretive company that might end privacy as we know it, as worded here in this New York Times headline. And guess who is behind it? Yes, the usual suspects. This is another Zionist company as a part of this massive surveillance grid that is dominated by Israel and their NSA equivalent Unit 8200. I've done several videos on the Israel tech takeover, and this is going to be another installment to go along with that playlist. And it is disturbing as ever. It's all the usual suspects, many of the Zionists of the same cabal, and Chabad ties into it. I've been working on this video for over a week. It's extensive, a lot of information, so bear with me, stay through. It's going to be a lot of important info I'm going to be throwing at you guys. And so let's get started. The secretive company that might end privacy as we know it. A little-known startup helps law enforcement match photos of unknown people to their online images and might lead to a dystopian future or something, a backer says. Exactly. We've all known that the biometric system, the facial recognition technology that they're using in China is here at our doorsteps. It's already here, essentially. And now a top Zionist company totally tied in with this same networks that we've been exposing is here. And this is a dystopian sci-fi nightmare coming into fruition. And it is incredibly dangerous. So just a couple highlights from this article. And then we'll move over to a different one where I have more highlights. Quote, "The weaponization possibilities of this are endless," said Eric Goldman. And obviously the repercussions of this, or the implications, are this new company is going to be used to use facial recognition software to dox any political dissidents. And they've already been trying to roll it out with people who know about what our Zionist overlords are up to. In addition, Clearview, the company's name is Clearview, was founded by Richard Schwartz, who was an aide to Rudolph Giuliani when he was mayor of New York, and backed financially by Peter Thiel, a Trump supporter and Zionist tied into a million different things, venture capitalist behind Facebook, and Palantir, another Zionist bulk data gathering. The other co-founder is this guy, this Asian guy, who, wait to see who he's connected to. And it's a program that can automatically collect images of people's faces from across the internet, such as employment sites, news sites, educational sites, and social networks, including Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and even Venmo. So, I'm so public with my real name and my face, all over the internet that this isn't really a threat to me. But to anybody else, to people that want to protest or anybody that could go against them, be a political dissident, this is truly alarming. We have a couple more highlights here. Clearview deployed current and former Republican officials to approach police forces, offering free trials and annual licenses for as little as $2,000. Mr. Schwartz tapped his political connections to help make government officials aware of the tool, according to Mr. Ton That, who is the other co-founder. And including Tommy Loren, big Fox Nation Trump supporter. And it's in 600 agencies are using this already. Mr. Thiel, the Clearview investor, sits on the Facebook board, so they're going through all of Facebook photos to be able to have huge databases to track everybody. And here's the BuzzFeed did a special on this. This came out January 23rd, so 7 days ago. And how let me just show this. If it'll play for me. Here, let's see, F5, I think. They had a really cool graphic here, yeah, with all the faces. They have the biggest database of faces so that they can use the facial recognition software like you saw in my thumbnail. I hid a little code in there too to get around the YouTube censors if you guys didn't notice it. So Clearview AI says its facial recognition software identified a terrorism suspect, but that's actually a lie and the cops say that's not true. Clearview AI has built a database of billions of photos that it says can reveal just about anyone's true identity. So the days of anonymity are gone. Be prepared for a future of dystopian sci-fi future of like social credit scores and mark of the beast you cannot buy and sell if you're photoed at a anti-Semitic protest or something like that. Clearview AI, a facial recognition company, says that it's amassed a database of billions of photos, has a fantastic selling point it offers to police departments nationwide. How a terrorism suspect was instantly identified with Clearview. It has a pitch, Clearview, to partnerships with police departments across the country, but they're lying to get all these contracts because they actually played no role in the case, and the software's really not as perfect as they claim it is, but it will be one day. And it's interesting because there's already many companies that can do this facial recognition. Facebook's been doing it for a long time. They already have it in China, but they are going to be implementing, and this new company is getting popular because the people who are behind it is Zionists, the Zionist cabal. It's raised fears that a much hyped moment when universal facial recognition could be deployed at a mass scale is finally at hand. The company, founded by CEO Ton That, has drawn a veil over itself and operations. So they're invading all of our privacy, but they want to have their privacy, and they scrubbed the web for all their past activity. They're also misrepresenting their work to police departments across the nation, hiding several key facts about its origins, which we'll dig deep into, and downplaying its founders' previous connections to white nationalists and the far right, which is more of a controlled opposition backdoor to dox all these people and put them on lists. As it emerges from the shadows, Clearview is attempting to convince law enforcement that its facial recognition tool, which has been trained on photos scraped from Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and other sites, is more accurate than any other on the market. When the suspect's photo was searched in Clearview, its software linked the image to an online profile with a man's name in less than 5 seconds. But the NYPD said that wasn't true, but they're lying because I guess they're compulsive liars, but they're still rolling out this technology. And let's see here. Originally known as Smart Checker, so they changed names. It used to be called Smart Checker. Clearview was the result of an unlikely partnership between Ton That, a small-time hacker turned serial app developer, and Richard Schwartz, a former advisor to New York Mayor Giuliani, remember, who was the mayor during 9/11. And he told the Times that they met at a 2016 event at the Manhattan Institute, a conservative think tank, after which they decided to build a facial recognition company. So they met at the Manhattan Institute, and it was funded by Richard Schwartz. So let's get into a little bit of Richard Schwartz here. This is one of the tie-ins to Chabad Lubavitch. We have JTA. This is from 2006. Rebbe's sons, so Chabad Lubavitch, the Rebbe, the top rabbis, sons feud over the Satmar legacy. So a Satmar, I believe, is one of the branches of Chabad Lubavitch. It says, as the world's largest Hasidic sect mourns the death this week of the Satmar Grand Rebbe Moses Teitelbaum, the bitter, litigious, and sometimes violent feud between two of his sons. The dispute continued on another front this week, the court of public opinion, with both sides utilizing communications consultants to get their message out to the media. One of the factions, Aaron's factions, has since last year employed Richard Schwartz and Ken Friedman, both former aides to Mayor Rudy Giuliani. So the guy that founded this company was former lawyer to Chabad Lubavitchers. in their huge case over who would follow in their father's footsteps. So there's one connection. Richard Schwartz to Chabad Lubavitch. And remember, they met at the Manhattan Institute. So a little bit on the Manhattan Institute. Manhattan Institute for Policy Research is a conservative nonprofit American think tank focused on domestic policy and urban affairs, established in New York City in 1997 by Anthony Fisher and William J. Casey. William J. Casey was the director of the CIA from 1981 to 1987. And that director, thanks to John Swin, Expose the Enemy. He's the guy, exposetheenemy.com is his website. He's the one that designed this shirt for me. They live with Trump and wake up with no more news. It's available on nomorenews.org. But he sent me this. William Casey was into underage boy escorts. Confessions of a DC Madam, her book. You can see here. Oh, where is it? That is really weird. I closed it and it came out. Here, let me get it back again. Just a second. John Swin, formerly The World Needs This Man, sent me this. And here we go. Open it back up. Weird that it disappeared. She wrote about it in her book here. If it will open, Control F, Casey. Here we go. So this is the guy that's founded this Manhattan Institute, where this facial recognition company was formed out of. Former CIA Director William Casey was a frequent flyer of this Madam's escort service. Like Barney Frank, Congressman Barney Frank, and Donald Gregg, he preferred 18-year-old escorts with minimal body hair and a slender swimmer's physique. Sounds like Roy Cohn, Trump and Roger Stone's mentor. Although he requested that I provide him with underage escorts, she wouldn't acquiesce to his requests. Casey met with escorts at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel after Casey was nude and splayed on bed, and this is graphic. You know, cover your ears, earmuffs if there's children around. I know this is a family show. He had the escorts rub oil over his body, and he kissed and fondled him, and it was dysphoric. The escort said it was dysphoric. Casey came to his attention because he wasn't able to have an erection, and the escorts that employed were perplexed by both his elaborate rituals with the oils and his erectile dysfunction. So that's former CIA head, unsurprising, just like Epstein showed us. All of these people in high position. Dennis Hastert was the Speaker of the House. He was blackmailed with his underage wrestler rapes that he had, and all of these people around the Epstein rings. It's just the same story every single time. The FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, and him dressing up like a woman and stuff. So William J. Casey, that's one of the connections to this institute where the facial recognition company was out of. And it gets worse. All the other people involved with this. So after the attacks of the World Trade Center on September 11th, the Institute formed the Center for Tactical Counterterrorism. And now they set up all Homeland Security and the Patriot Act to go after these Muslim terrorists. And now they're shifting it all to white supremacy is the big threat. I'll show you the articles more on that later. And they're using this to go after the new threat of anti-Semitism, because that's what they really want to go after. New policing techniques with the goal of retraining offers to become first preventers to future mass casualties. And there's other technology companies like, I think it's there's these same people, Paul Singer, all these Zionists, Unit 8200, Mossad, Netanyahu. They're all connected to like Carbine 911, which Whitney Webb has wrote about a lot of these. That's the 911 call service. There's Pegasus, Promise, NSO, Psy Group that are all about surveillance and bulk data gathering. There's Palantir, which Peter Thiel is connected to. Remember, he's a big Trump supporter. He's Jewish, homosexual, and that's about predictive programming. We're hearing about red flag laws and how anti-Semitism is going to be stopped. We're heading into incredibly dangerous times like the former Bolshevik Soviet Union, where anti-Semites are locked up in gulags, and that's not even the worst. So, continuing on here. Oh, where? Come on, find my highlights. Past honorees from this institute include William F. Buckley, who's, a conservative Zionist. Rudolph Giuliani. Rupert Murdoch is involved, the owner of Fox News. And before I continue on there, remember Rupert Murdoch? Jared Kushner talks to Fox News chairman Rupert Murdoch every day, asks him for advice, report, and also Trump or Ivanka and Jared Kushner were set up, Rupert Murdoch's wife, who's a Chinese woman, played matchmaker and got them back together. So, and Rupert Murdoch is on Genie Energy with Rothschilds, all these other PNAC Zionists with their drilling in the Golan Heights. So Rupert Murdoch. Jeb Bush, who was, remember, Project for a New American Century. Henry Kissinger, of course. Bobby Jindal, another big Zionist congressman, or maybe he's a governor, I think. Paul Ryan, another one. Okay, continuing on. Got to get to there. A lot about these guys. It's basically just another one of these Zionist first neocon war hawk think tanks. Jeez, sorry. I hope nobody gets seizures. Here we go. Notable people involved with this Manhattan Institute. David Frum. A little bit on David Frum. He is credited with inspiring the phrase axis of evil for Bush's 2002 State of Union address. So the axis of evil that they used to launch the war on terror. And he serves on the board of directors of the Republican Jewish Coalition. So, I mean, you guys are starting to see every which way, every thread you go down. Bill Kristol, that's Project for a New American Century and Foreign Weekly Standard. He's the big Jewish Zionist again. Paul Singer, American billionaire hedge fund manager. He's a Trump supporter. He's involved heavily, as Whitney Webb wrote about here, how neocon billionaire Paul Singer is driving outsourcing of U.S. tech jobs to Israel. So this is Paul Singer, leading Republican donor, billionaire hedge fund manager, who also funds the neocon think tank, the American Enterprise Institute. He's also chairman of the board of this Manhattan Institute. And this one, AEI, is the Islamophobic Hawkish Think Tank Foundation, the Defense of Democracies, the Republican Jewish Coalition, and also funded the now defunct Foreign Policy Initiative, which was the rebranded PNAC. He is involved heavily with Benjamin Netanyahu with the tech transfer over to Israel, which Netanyahu calls a deliberate policy. So dangerous that all this tech, and this is where real power is, the cyber age with the internet. They're controlled surveillance, and they're going to be able to do mark of the beast. You won't be able to buy and sell, spying, blackmail. Paul Singer and neocons Bill Kristol and Robert Kagan co-founded the FPI, Foreign Policy Initiative, which Singer had long funded before it closed in 2017. And the other co-founder was, his sister was Wendy Singer, and she was the longtime director of Israel's AIPAC office. So just more of this technology all being consolidated and transferred over to Israel, and they are going to dominate the world with their technocracy grid. Building the binational surveillance state, top U.S. tech companies have filled top positions with former members of Israeli military intelligence and moved strategic and critical operations to Israel, boosting Israel's economy at the expense of America's. Not to mention the danger of them having all the tech, but all of the jobs and the economy moving over to Israel. A powerful American billionaire has built an influential organization, and this is Paul Singer, with deep connections to AIPAC, an Israeli company that has been repeatedly investigated for spying on U.S. government amdocs. And I exposed amdocs and Converse in the video I did based on Whitney Webb's other article a couple weeks ago, Operation Blackout. I mean, there's Palantir, Pegasus, Carbine, Election Guard, News Guard, Operation Blackout, Converse, amdocs, the Jedi contract to Israel. Just all of the technology is moving over to Israel. We are going to be totally screwed and under their complete control. Okay, a little bit more on Singer here. Actually, that's all. Go back to Manhattan Institute. So that was just Paul Singer. Andrew Klavan, that's the writer for Ben Shapiro's The Daily Wire, is involved. Judith Miller is at Manhattan Institute. She's the woman that lied about the Iraqi WMDs from the Israeli intelligence that got us into launching the war on terror after 9/11. I wasn't kidding. I told you guys there's a lot of info in this one. I mean, look at all these tabs, and I got a whole long sequence going on my Adobe Premiere Pro either. Also, here's the Manhattan Institute, the Board of Trustees. Paul Singer there at the top. So this is just another Paul Singer company, essentially, which is an Israeli Zionist company with all the connections to Chabad, and I'm not done with the connections to Chabad. Maurice Greenberg, he's another guy that was the chairman or the top guy at AIG. Remember, they got the big bailout in 2008, I believe it was, after the economy collapsed. He's also connected, I think, to Kroll and Associates and how they're like a Mossad, quasi-private company. So Maurice Greenberg, and I could go on and on about these guys, but just to show the rest of the names, Rebecca Mercer, her dad, Robert Mercer, funds the Gatestone Institute. That's the top Zionist think tank that's incredibly Israel first, that gives out all these awards to Bolton and others, the Defender of Israel awards. Rebecca Mercer also funds Breitbart and I believe Rebel Media as well. Or maybe it's Shillman, Robert Shillman, another tech billionaire that has his statue at Technion in Israel, their university there. So just all the names associated with this. So let's go back where we were. So that was just Giuliani, Richard Schwartz, and Manhattan Institute. Okay. And it says, these guys used to be interested in far-right politics. The far-right kosher conservatives, the MAGA, really make Israel great again, alt-light people. And Breitbart writers, Breitbart founded in Israel. And it says those interactions. So he hid his Twitter history, but they were able to find some. Those interactions with the founder of this facial recognition company didn't just happen in line. In 2016, good old Mike Cernovich, our friend Mike Cernovich, remember from InfoWars, huge Zionist on Twitter. He's got 500,000 followers on Twitter. He's a pro-Trump personality on Twitter who propagated the Pizzagate conspiracy, which was big to help Trump get elected, and posted a photo of Ton That at a meal with far-right provocateur Chuck Johnson, another so-called kosher Nazi who is associated with Dershowitz. Cernovich and Dershowitz and Chuck Johnson, when Dershowitz was accused of rape by Epstein's victim, remember Dershowitz is Epstein's lawyer also, Mike Cernovich intervened in the lawsuit to try to unseal the name and the identity of the Jane Doe so that they could smear them in the media and threaten them and intimidate them. And Chuck Johnson did the same thing. And then both of these guys are in a photo with the founder of this company making the OK sign with their hands, a gesture that has since become favored by right-wing trolls. They make it a white power or right-wing thing, but before Trump came around, the OK sign with your hands, which I don't even want to show because, they'll take screenshots and say I'm involved with it. This was always an Illuminati thing, 666. So here's Mike Cernovich, Twitter. This is the founder of the facial recognition company. The other co-founder is Chabad Lubavitch, photoed here with Chuck Johnson, doing their OK signs. And Ton That was on the Trump train, attended an election night event where he was photographed with Johnson as well. And let me hop over to show you guys the photo. Oh, come on, what is going on here? This happened the other time too. Okay, there we go. Let me show you Chuck Johnson. All right. Here we go. So this is another graphic done by @John_Swin. ExposeTheEnemy.com is his website. The Roy Cohn, Epstein, Maxwell, honeypot connections around Trump. All the idiots thinking, all the QAnon retards that think, oh, Trump, he's the unsealed, or what is it, the sealed indictments, and Trump's going after the pedos and QAnon. Trump is so involved with this Epstein pedophile blackmail network. Anybody that's not, with any discernment that's not a retard knows it. So we see here down here at the bottom, Les Wexner was the money mega group behind Jeffrey Epstein, who was working with Ghislaine Maxwell. Her dad was the KGB Mossad super spy, and she was Ghislaine Maxwell was involved with Prince Andrew and Epstein and Bill Clinton and Elon Musk. The Rothschilds introduced Dershowitz to Epstein, and then you see here Charles Johnson worked for Dershowitz at Harvard, I believe it was, and has appeared on InfoWars. Mike Cernovich they're all in the same documentary together. I'll show you that later. Roger Stone's connected. They're all proteges of Roy Cohn. And just think of this. Trump not only gave Alexander Acosta the sweetheart deal, Alexander Acosta gave Jeff Epstein the sweetheart plea deal, and then he got rewarded by becoming appointed U.S. attorney by Trump. And then Trump hires Epstein's lawyers, Dershowitz and Ken Starr. It's just totally absurd. You guys know it, though. I don't have to tell you. Okay. And it says, develop the image scraping tools while Schwartz covered the operating costs. So Richard Schwartz was funding this facial recognition company, underneath probably Paul Singer and all these, Chabad Lubavitch and all these things. And they do, okay, so here's where Paul Nealon comes into it. BuzzFeed News obtained and confirmed a document first reported by the New York Times in which the company claimed it could provide voter ad micro-targeting and, quote, extreme opposition research to Paul Nealon, a white nationalist who was running on an extremist platform. So, a smart checker contractor named Douglas Mackey pitched the services to Nealon. Mackey later became known for running the racist and highly influential Trump-boosting Twitter account called Ricky Vaughn, described by Huffington Post as, quote, Trump's most influential white nationalist troll. Mackey built a following of tens of thousands of users with a mix of far-right propaganda, racist tropes, and anti-Semitic cartoons. And they did, Media Lab ranked Vaughn, who used multiple accounts, as one of the top 150 influencers of the 2016 election, ahead of NBC News and even Drudge Report. So an unauthorized proposal was sent to Mr. Nealon, who Nealon was this, anti-Semitic, but still pro-Trump. He was running for office, and they came to him and said, I'll just read it first and then review it. A disagreement between Mackey and other far-right figures led to his outing as the owner of Vaughn Persona, sweeping Smart Checker up in the fallout. Smart Checker was the name before they changed to Clearview. In April 2018, a white nationalist blogger named Christopher Cantwell, remember him from the Vice with the guns, making, anti-Semites, alt-right people look completely insane. They pitched documents to Nealon as well as information about Schwartz, inviting a torrent of abuse. Mackey worked for 3 weeks as a consultant to Smart Checker, according to Ton That, who knows if that's true, which was the initial name of Clearview. Mackey did not respond to the multiple requests for comment. When asked if the company knew about Mackey's Twitter persona, Ton That responded, absolutely not, and, who knows, he's probably lying. And Ton That and Schwartz were working on Clearview AI, and their image scraping software had begun to take off in the summer of 2018. The company raised funding from billionaire venture capitalist and Facebook board member Peter Thiel, which is just highest level Zionist tech, all the big names here. Okay, what was I going to say? So what I think is going on here, was Douglas Mackey, aka what is it? Ricky Vaughn, tried to go to Paul Nealon and say, hey, use this software for micro-targeting and opposition research. So what I understood, or how it was explained to me, was that Paul Nealon started using this stuff, which it doesn't make sense. This is software that's supposed to do facial recognition. I don't see how that's going to help him win a campaign. What I think was happening was they were trying to get Paul Nealon to open up his social media accounts so that they could dox and get the names and database all of these people who know what's up with the JQ and know about Zionism and all that stuff. And let's see. And this software can be integrated in security cameras, iPhone, iPad apps, and with API. Unlike other facial recognition companies, Clearview AI provides a curated database of millions and soon billions of faces from the open web. Clearview AI sent the Atlanta Police Department a flyer touting the startup's proprietary image database and the world's best facial recognition technology, claiming that the company's mountains of data were its secret sauce. The idea that this little app hacker that in like a small team of hackers or programmers, coders, were able to put this together. They're probably a front company for Unit 8200, most likely. And the Atlantic Police dug into Clearview's marketing claims. It signed an agreement with them. That $6,000 deal gave the department 3 licenses, each of which lasted a year, to use Clearview's software, which was an order of magnitude cheaper than other bidders. That's another thing. They're able to offer their services for way less. It's price cutting, probably so they could take over and become a monopoly and be widespread everywhere. And then, seems like they don't need to make money if they're offering it for way cheaper than everybody else. And so they offered it for $6,000, where other people were bidding $42,000 or $75,000. So far cheaper, probably because it's subsidized by Unit 8200 and Paul Singer and all this stuff, so they could be the ones with all the control of the facial databases. Using government contract database GovSpend, BuzzFeed News identified 12 police department deals with Clearview, including a $15,000 set of subscriptions to Clearview by the New York State Police, $15,000 from Broward County, and $10,000 from Gainesville, Florida. So Broward County, that is important that they were one of the first ones to get this deal. Let me show you a little bit about Broward County. Broward Sheriff is friends with the dirty trickster Roger Stone. They forge an unlikely tie. Sheriff Scott Israel, trusted political guides is Scott Rothstein and Roger Stone. Let's see, I think I have... Do I have a highlight here? Okay. The Jewish sheriff at Florida shooting, remember there was the school shooting also that happened there? Cites and the shooting is connected because they want to, Barr, Attorney General Barr, who his dad gave Epstein the job when he was unqualified to teach at the school, and who visited the prison where Epstein was at, had made a quiet visit a few weeks before he was murdered or allowed to commit suicide or, escaped. He was broke out, whatever happened. Epstein escaped justice and didn't have to stand trial and expose anybody. But Barr is trying to roll out these red flag laws and these pre-crime systems with Peter Thiel and Palantir and this predictive minority report type of stuff. So these kind of shootings are their problem reaction solution to justify that sort of thing. And Broward County, Jewish sheriff at Florida shooting cites Talmudic verse as his motivation. The Talmud, whoever saves one life saves an entire world. Yeah, I'm sure they really care about saving the Goyim lives. And saving the world, like Tikkun Olam, their whole heal the world, light unto the nations. And the troubled tenure of Scott Israel, sheriff of Broward County. Broward, here, one more zoom in. Broward has one of the largest Jewish communities in the U.S. And remember, these were one of the first people to get this contract with this facial recognition company. Stern described Israel as someone who, quote, believes in his own ego. He told me he was like a rock star. When you've got Roger Stone pissing in your ear saying, I can take you places. Roger Stone, the political consultant and conspiracy theorist who has worked for Nixon, Reagan, and Trump and InfoWars, didn't start saying nice things about Israel until 2012 when they got him blackmailed or decided to buy him off and compromise him. When he assisted Israel's second successful run for sheriff in 2011, he called Israel an unqualified punk, a racist, and a thief. And then the next year, he helped him get elected. Nothing suspicious about that, of course. And let me show you something about Roger Stone, too. Let's see here. There's Roger Stone. The same OK hand sign with all of these alt-right Proud Boys, I believe. More of these kosher Nazis. Here's Roger Stone posting on Instagram. A supporter gave me this tiny book. I carry it with me always. I pray it protects me from the fake news who are smearing me and purposely misrepresenting everything I say. He's got a little Kabbalah Center Zohar, pocket-size Zohar. And Roger Stone here defending Weave, Cernovich. He's saying Weave for instance. Okay, he's never mind. He's calling out Cernovich and this Pilosov, who I'll get more on him later on. He's not coming up yet. Okay, back to the article. Everybody, thanks for sticking with me. It's getting even better. I'm just getting started here. Share the link if you can. Give it a like also on the video. So Broward County is one of the first to get this software, and you can see Chabad Lubavitch connected, Roger Stone connected. Find my highlights. Ironically, the company that seeks to erode privacy, many key figures at Clearview have attempted to lower their public profiles. Some began to do so long before attention from the press. That and Schwartz started Clearview. Since they started Clearview, their social media and internet presence have been scrubbed, while Schwartz's LinkedIn profile vanished, and his past with Smart Checker has been obscured from the web. Nothing suspicious about that. And it talks about how it looks like they've hired somebody to game the search engine results to bury them and to put up a bunch of, other Richard Schwartzes if people want to dig into who these people are. Probably because they're front men for Chabad Lubavitch and Paul Singer and the Manhattan Institute and Unit 8200, like I'm, blowing the whistle on right now. And they found his number. They called him. He picked up and denied that he was Richard Schwartz and hung up. Okay, that is all for that article. A little bit on this Guardian article. Quick, cheap to make, and loved by police. Facial recognition apps are on the rise. This app reminds me, it's so similar to Wix. Wix is the website building and hosting company that's the most popular. It's the cheapest. It's the easiest to use. There's the most advertisements for it. It's everywhere. Wix was also founded by a Unit 8200 graduate, which is the Israel's NSA equivalent. And they're trying to get everybody on board to adopt their software. They're undercutting prices, and so they can get full control of the internet. And they're saying that it has surprising accuracy. It's very concerning, and that a company is going to cross that line. Clearview AI, a tiny company based in New York, the secretive company that might end privacy. That's the New York headline. Was it because Peter Thiel, the creepy billionaire geek from Central Casting, had been an early investor? Or because That, an ingenious co-founder of Clearview, had once, like Thiel, been traduced by Gawker? Or because the other co-founder was a guy who used to work for Rudy Giuliani, Trump's lawyer? So I didn't go down that thread. So Giuliani, who is close to Trump, he was there on 9/11, the mayor, and look at Rudy Giuliani's connections to Chabad as well. So we already have the founder of this company, Richard Schwartz, was the lawyer for Chabad Lubavitch. He's the former aide to Giuliani, and look how Giuliani ties in with Chabad Lubavitch. We've got him here meeting the Rebbe when he was running to be mayor, which anybody running for office and mayor, you have to go meet the Rebbe because, he's so influential. Here's a little video of that.
God Almighty bless you to perform all your duties in good health in the right way.
Thank you very much. I'm very honored. Thank you.
Don't be offended by mentioning the right way. Everyone has needs. The God of God.
Thank you.
God is on your side.
Thank you. That's a double portion for charity.
Pretty interesting how if you run for mayor in New York, you have to go kiss the ring of the Rebbe, the Chabad Lubavitch Rebbe. So more Giuliani connections to Chabad Lubavitch. They're extensive. Why is Rudy Giuliani close with this Hasidic Ukrainian rabbi? That's JTA. Orthodox group honored Giuliani associates before they were arrested. All of these Ukrainian Chabad Lubavitch oligarchs are partly, the phone call with Trump was why he's impeached. The call with Zelensky, and then Trump just met with them the other day, or the video was released the other day. America's mayor Rudy Giuliani was made mayor of Anatkava. I can't pronounce it. And troubles ensued. So they made him honorary mayor of their Chabad Lubavitch city, I guess. Here he is having cigars with another Hasidic Chabad Lubavitcher Ukraine rabbi. In recording, Trump, and this was just this week, January 25th, in recording, Trump asked how long Ukraine can resist the Russians. And these same rabbis that are friends with Giuliani, this leaked recording, they gave a gift to Trump from the head rabbi in Ukraine and rabbis in Israel, drawing a parallel between Trump and the Messiah. It's like Messiah is the person that's come to save the whole world. So it's like you're the savior of Ukraine. All the Jew people of Ukraine, they are praying for you. Fruman says, as Parnas tells Trump, Parnas is the top Chabad rabbi in Ukraine, and then they said to show the gift to Jared Kushner, the president's Jewish son-in-law and senior advisor, to explain its meaning. Kushner went to the Rebbe's grave and was vice president of Friends of Chabad, and he went and got the dollar from the Rebbe when he was a young boy as well. And they're the photos. So they're also comparing Trump to the Messiah because Trump's name is in Gematria is 424, and that's the same as Moshiach ben David. And one more headline about Ukraine, JTA. This is just today. That's today. Ukrainian senior economist says Ukrainians let Jews, quote, dominate them. Can anybody sympathize with this? Ukrainian senior economist says Ukrainians let Jews dominate them. He'll be fired for, here, let's look at this too. Zelensky, Chabad, as soon as this Jewish actor become president, he meets with Chabad. The phone call, here, let me show this too. Editing image. Zelensky, the phone call that Trump had, Ukraine, that got Trump impeached. This was the transcript from it. Oh, and here we go. Dozens of Ukrainian lawmakers want embassy move to Jerusalem. Just like Bolsonaro in Brazil, all these nationalists, supposed nationalists that all bend the knee and kiss the ring to Zion and are so close with Israel, they all say, oh, elect me and I'll move the embassy. Boris Johnson, Bolsonaro, Ukraine, dozens of Ukrainian lawmakers want embassy moved to Jerusalem. Salvini also in Italy. And this was the transcript. So Trump says, I think you're surrounding yourself with some of the same people. He's talking about Chabad Lubavitch. And Zelensky says, I just wanted to assure you once again that you have nobody but friends around us. It's the Chabad Kosher Nostra, Moscow, Tel Aviv, New York triangle of this Chabad Lubavitch mafia that is surrounding all of these people. And, okay, where are we now? Let's see. Okay, scraping images from online. We're at 45 minutes. They have 600 customers, so it's being adopted very fast. So why is it taking... So we've seen this type of technology for a while, and they call it catnip for cops. So what has taken so long for it to surface? Well, because LinkedIn tried and failed to block and sue scrapers, the judge said that not only could it not sue, but also that it's not even allowed to try to block scraping by any technical means. So they have, DARPA created internet and Google and Facebook and all these social media. They got us willingly to put all of our information online. So it's going to be a full 1984 surveillance grid. Okay. Where are we going now? Oh, here's another one. CIA, another Whitney Webb article. How the CIA, Mossad, and the Epstein network are exploiting mass shootings to create an Orwellian nightmare. Think Broward County, Sheriff Israel, Attorney General Barr, by the way, was just meeting with Hasidic groups saying that they're going to end anti-Semitism. Peter Thiel is invested in Carbine 911. This is this pre-crime. They're all Unit 8200 alum that are connected with all this. I mean, it's starting to beat a dead horse at this point. You guys get it. It's just Israel is taking over all of technology, and it is going to be straight dystopian nightmare. And Peter Thiel invested in this company with Ehud Barak. Remember him in BBC, former Prime Minister of Israel, who was there in BBC studios on 9/11, announcing the Patriot Acts, blaming bin Laden, talking about the war on terror that was about to be launched. Him and Netanyahu go back decades with secret elite Israeli IDF forces, and they invested together. Remember, he's also implicated with Epstein as well. He was meeting, probably getting girls from Epstein. So Peter Thiel, Epstein, Ehud Barak, they're all investing with these companies. Also think Epstein was investing with Bill Gates. Let's see, I don't have anything else. You guys can read all these articles. If you haven't already read Whitney's articles on all this Israel tech, or John Swin at exposetheenemy.com, which is right here. I have his, you can see Israel and IDF, Talpiot, Technion, Unit 8200, Jewish Supremacy, Chabad Lubavitch. This is Blackwater, who they're going to come up here. New York, Tel Aviv, Moscow Triangle. All the tech going to Israel as well. Make sure to check out those sites and Whitney's work as well. So let's see here. Okay, we have... Let's see, where are we going to go back to? So we've got Chabad Lubavitch. We've got Mike Cernovich connected. Let's get into a little bit on Mike Cernovich now. Mike Cernovich had this documentary called Silenced come out a few years ago, 2016, and it starred Alan Dershowitz, and it was directed by Lorne Feldman, who is also Chabad Lubavitch. Directed by Lorne Feldman. I can't look at that. Stars on there. So this documentary was all about free speech. It's called Silence. It's about censorship. Not a word that all of these, ADL and Jews and Israel Firsters are all about the censorship when it comes to criticizing them. The people featured in this, Dershowitz, Horowitz, Milo, Dave Rubin, this rabbi, just basically all Jews in this documentary. Here's Cernovich with Dershowitz there. Photo of them together. And remember, Dershowitz pretended to be, or Cernovich pretended to, he exposed Epstein, his interfering in this Epstein court case, that got him arrested, and he tried to take credit. This is the director, Lauren Feldman, so you could see the Hebrew letters there on the necklace. Cernovich was working as a proxy, in my opinion, for Dershowitz to unseal the victim. Lauren Feldman, the director of this documentary, follows Chabad on campus and Rabbi Avi Feldman. And look at some of these tweets. That this is the director of the Dershowitz-Cernovich documentary, Lauren Feldman. He says, "It's pointless to try and discuss. The problem is no Moshiach until Jews unite." As if Jews don't unite already. "I cannot understand Jews who look at Israel politically as opposed to religiously, but I cannot judge him. Their spark, that's the divine spark, the Kabbalah that all Jews have, that the Goyim don't. That's why we're subordinate on the Kabbalah tree of life. We're on the lower animalistic level, according to their beliefs. They have the divine spark, we don't. Their spark just needs to be lit." This is what he says. "This evangelicals want dead Jews, period." This is the way he thinks. Goyim, laughing about Goyim. This is Cernovich's buddy, the director of Cernovich's film. No wonder Cernovich is such a Zionist shill and literally shills for Chabad, as you'll see here in a second. So Feldman's laughing at us, calling us Goyim. He says, "Yep, white rule in America is ending in everything magnificent routine." Dershowitz, Cernovich. And you'll see how Daily Stormer's Weave ties into this in a second as well. Lauren Feldman says, "It's binary. You're Nazi or Antifa. Pick an effing side. You don't need to agree with every detail, but you still need to pick an effing side." The dichotomy, which I'll get more to in a second, of Antifa versus the alt-right and this theater and this division and polarization. Dugin, Putin connected. For the record, he 100% supports Antifa. That's Chabad Lubavitch supporting Antifa. And Cernovich always talks about how, all these BDS anti-Israel people, they're with Antifa. Meanwhile, Antifa shouts down anybody that even mildly criticizes Jews as a Nazi, and they hold up signs that says solidarity with Israel. And Lauren Feldman, his buddy and director, supports Antifa. Lauren Feldman sharing the Canary Mission, the Jewish Adam Milstein, Sheldon Adelson doxing site that tries to smear and dox and intimidate any college professors or journalists or students who want to stand up against Jewish supremacy. Here he is sharing Canary Mission once again. Lauren Feldman sharing. He says, "Anti-Semitism is rampant, including in the United States. That's reality. They will 100% make a move on us again. Meanwhile, all these people are making the move on us with all this technology and all these anti-Semitism laws and getting us entangled in all these wars and all this prophecy stuff being fulfilled." Here he is saying that Jack Dorsey of Twitter is one of them, calling him an anti-Semite. Cernovich also is friends with Andrew Meyer, who I've had on the channel before for a debate. See, he's host and producer at Mike Cernovich, and before that, he was editor-in-chief at We Are Change. If anybody wants to know, what else do you need to know about Luke Radowski and We Are Change? Completely kosher, won't talk about Zionism. Luke Radowski at We Are Change once told his editor, who blew the whistle, said, "Do not criticize Israel." He used to be buddies with InfoWars. Him and Jason Burmis are completely running and scared from me and my work. He used to work there at We Are Change. Loomer used to work at We Are Change too, by the way. Mike Cernovich says, this is shilling for Chabad, Mike Cernovich. "Has anyone read this book? Killer book cover. I would pick up if saw it at bookstore." It's literally sharing Chabad.org. Their book with the all-seeing eye on the front. "Order Positivity Bias, our new book of the Rebbe's wisdom." Cernovich shilling for the Rebbe. And you'll see why I'm covering Cernovich so much here in a second, because the other guy, this kosher-controlled opposition that appeared in his documentary, and his connections to Dershowitz and his connections to Chabad, oh, that's the same one. So here's the documentary, Silenced.
Just fundamentally disagree with...
Dershowitz up there trying to pretend like he's for free speech. Meanwhile, Dershowitz was just on stage with Trump and Kushner signing the executive order where you can't criticize Israel at all for anything, can't call them racist, can't talk about their loyalty to Israel, can't say that they control anything, which, by the way, the ADL just did a study. All the articles were out yesterday where, like, the majority of the country believes in at least one anti-Semitic trope. So we've got some room to go.
Just fundamentally disagree with, like, Nazis marching through the streets of Skokie deliberately because it was a neighborhood of Holocaust survivors.
So he talks about, oh, I supported these Nazis marching in Skokie. Well, guess what? Even that, marching in Skokie, here's an article, Chicago Tribune, Swastika War, when the neo-Nazis fought in court to march in Skokie. Interesting that Dershowitz is connected to this as well, because, as it turns out, the guy who organized this march, his name was Max Collin, actually was a German Jew who had survived, his father, or maybe he, survived Dachau concentration camp, came to America, and changed his name from Cohen to Collin. So we have a crypto Jew is leading the neo-Nazi march. So much controlled opposition. Like Lenin said, the easiest way to control the opposition is to lead it. And there's this too, if I can find the right article here. Oh, I guess I don't have that. I'll read it here in a second. Okay.
Deliberately because it was a neighborhood of Holocaust survivors. I hate them. I was rooting for them to slip on banana peels and bash their skulls in, but I'm not going to let the government become censors. The best answer to falsehood and bigotry is truth and equality. You have to be able to compete in the marketplace of ideas.
Oh, that's why you're censoring anybody that exposes what you guys are up to. So Mike Cernovich, the guy that's for free speech, that supposedly makes these documentaries about censorship, this is his true opinions. He says, although this is unconstitutional, although this is an unconstitutional restriction on free speech, SJWs hate Israel. And it'll be nice to get them expelled and censored like they do us. When Trump signed this executive order and when BDS laws are passed, he supports those as well with the same logic. The guy is a total con artist, fraud. Here he is, Cernovich, saying, are these real? Please fact check this, Snopes. Did two members of Congress actually share the first cartoon, which was drawn by cartoonists who drew these other images? So he's saying these are anti-Semitic images, these cartoons made by the illustrator for, he does illustrations for Mint Press News even, and it's not a full endorsement of Mint Press News or this guy, but I'm just showing Cernovich, he's crying about anti-Semitism and saying, Snopes, check it out, investigate it. This is his logic here, that this false dichotomy that he's trying to push. Anti-Israel is far left. The same Antifa goons who try to censor me using violence are pro-Palestinian. He says, I can't express how so happy this makes me. Enjoy your censorship. And this is them Twitter banning Palestinian accounts. Here's Dershowitz celebrating Trump signing this executive order.
Great. For 65 of my 81 years, I have spent at universities all over the country and all over the world. There is no more important event in those 65 years to turn universities away from being bastions of hatred and discrimination than this executive order being signed today. It is a game changer.
We will never be criticized
again. It will go
again.
down in history as one of the most important events in the 2,000-year battle against anti-Semitism. Thank you, Mr. President. You did a great job The people who helped you do this did a great, great job, and you will be remembered by history for all time for having signed this very important order. Thank you.
Just awful. And there he signs it and gives Kushner the first pen. Look at how happy he is there. Just violating, trampling the First Amendment, saying you can't criticize a foreign country on college campuses. And then, I mean, here's the definition too. No targeting of the state of Israel. Can't say that they conspire. Can't use stereotypes. Say a myth about a world Jewish conspiracy. Talk about them controlling the media, economy, government, or other societal institutions. Talk about their loyalty to Israel. Can't talk about any of it. And this is this International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition of anti-Semitism. They're trying to push this through Congress, force the media to adopt it, social media companies to adopt it. They are trying to shut it down and basically implement Noahide laws where you can't criticize anything they do. So now here's where we get to Weave, or Andrew Auernheimer, who was affiliated with the Daily Stormer. He was in Mike Cernovich's documentary, which was directed by Chabad Lubavitch, starring Alan Dershowitz, in my opinion, playing the boogeyman, evil Nazi. And the way they do it is they show him say something horrendous and off-putting and distasteful, and then they show Dershowitz like the scholar. Oh, we just have to fight his hate speech with free speech. Meanwhile, he's all for censoring. And not to mention, did you guys see Dershowitz in Congress defending Trump from impeachment, basically saying what Trump did wasn't illegal because he did it for the goodness of the country. It's like, it's not illegal because the king did it argument. Just pathetic.
I am currently in the Kharkov Oblast of East Ukraine.
Nice. He's in Ukraine. What do you know? What are the odds that he's in Ukraine and he's got swastikas on and he's acting like a fool so Hillary Clinton and everybody can talk about this guy and point to him and say, evil, we need to go after these people. My guess is this guy is connected to Chabad Lubavitch playing kosher Nazi-controlled opposition.
And I am a crowd-funded nationalist activist.
Once you give authority to censor hate speech, who defines hate speech?
Does have
I guess you do, Dershowitz,
and
you and
rule
your
after
people.
rule, restricting among ourselves certain types of speech.
So of course, they have this rabbi that's talking about the Talmud and stuff in this Cernovich documentary.
Say of gossip. That being said, one of the greatest rabbis in the history of Judaism, one of the greatest Talmudic rabbis, for which we owe not just our legal system and contract law and torts and laws of damages and acquisition, but so much of the mystical side of Judaism. He spent many, many years hiding in a cave. And the Talmud tells us the events that preceded that. In a cave with his son. And it tells us of a dialogue the rabbis were sitting and talking. The idea explosion that has happened due to the availability to communicate. As I pointed out, the greatest human invention being the Gutenberg press. The Gutenberg press caused this explosion until literally the explosion in the late 60s that took us to the moon. That goes all the way back to that form of communication. And now that led to Twitter and the internet and Facebook. There's no way to put the genie back in the bottle.
And we have to shut it down. Here's more Weave.
There's a plan to wipe white people off the face of the earth, and that white Christians and white pagans are superior to other races and religions. That there's an inherent value into having nations where whites are supreme.
So remember, these controlled opposition outlets, they tell you a lot of truth because they have to have credibility. Otherwise, nobody will follow them. But then they inject a bunch of disinfo and they don't give you the right solutions and they do over-the-top stuff that looks really bad. So you just heard him saying, he basically an actual supremacist.
Blacks are supreme in Africa just as Asians are supreme in Asia. And you're not allowed to say these things in Western civilization. There's very large structures to make sure that nobody expresses these ideas very freely.
Censorship, once it begins, spreads like a virus.
The reality is that...
Oh, it does. You guys are shutting it down more than ever. So remember, this is back and forth. Dershowitz and Weave from Daily Stormer, making him look awful, making Dershowitz look great. And then tell me it's not suspicious. When I first watched this documentary, I knew right away. I said, this guy is working with them. He's playing right into their script. Come on, play.
The reality is that is that the non-white people don't believe in liberty. They never did. They never will. They have no desire to see liberty. And they're mad because we're giving that to them, whether they like it or not, because the world is very interconnected now. And that every single country in the world has all the liberties of any country that's connected to it. And the non-whites are not happy about this at all, because that means if there's free speech in America, then free speech is just an internet connection away, right? They want to make sure that this doesn't happen.
The answer to bad speech is good speech. The answer to false speech is true speech. The answer to hate speech is unhateful speech.
Listen to this fraud. This guy just was up there happy about this executive order where you can't criticize Israel. Anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. There, you can't call them racist. All of this stuff. He's such a fraud.
Free speech is just an internet connection away, right? And they want to make sure that this doesn't happen.
The answer to bad speech is good speech. The answer to false speech is true speech. The answer to hate speech is unhateful speech. You have to be able to respond.
Come on.
Not only have the ability to respond, but the willingness to respond, the determination to respond. If you say that people are entitled to engage in hate speech, and they are, then you have an obligation to answer that hate speech. You cannot simply defend someone's right to say hateful things without yourself getting into the marketplace and defeating their hateful ideas in the open marketplace. So we need more chutzpah. We always need more chutzpah. Everybody can use a little bit of chutzpah.
Did you just hear Cernovich say we need more chutzpah in the background? Come
First
on.
Amendment presupposes chutzpah.
It's since the dawn of our civilization. It's our heart and our soul, and to tell us that way is just to become a fucking Muslim or Gook or a Jew.
Did you see that? Join us in the struggle for global white supremacy. So openly trying to be supremacist like that with swastikas and stuff. This is so obviously controlled opposition.
To become a fucking Muslim or Gook or a Jew. These are the kinds of people that
using
didn't
racial
have ritualized
epithets.
insults and heritage. So it's the end of European civilization to give up free expression.
Speech. Proponents and thinkers were the ancient prophets of the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, who often spoke certain truths, certain
another
ideal
guy,
truths,
the Hebrew
when they were not very
Bible.
comfortably received by the population.
Judaism sees that dividing line, that we may have our rules, but we are unique.
This whole silence documentary with Lauren Feldman, Dershowitz, deeply connected with Chabad, and Mike Cernovich shilling for Chabad is all about. It's just such a fraud. I can't get over it. Okay, and then here's another hypocrisy. This is the guy that was the cartoonist that won the Draw Muhammad contest that Pamela Geller and all these Zionists held, to be defiant and say, we will draw Muhammad. And then when the New York Times comes out with the cartoon that shows Netanyahu leading Trump around like a guide dog, they lose their minds and say, we need laws to stop this anti-Semitism. Like the hypocrites.
And what did I do? Naturally, I drew Muhammad. I drew him a number of times over the years, and then I heard about this contest that Pamela Geller had with Robert Spencer and AFDI, and it was in Breitbart. It was a story in Breitbart who said $10,000 to draw Muhammad. I said, well, I've been drawing for years for free anyway. Why not, hopefully get paid for it. How proud to be there.
Okay, Breitbart involved too. Founded in Israel.
There are people who have made it their life's work to sit in their basement and send anti-Semitic and homophobic and awful things to people all the time, right? There are people who just all day long, they just send out Nazi memes to Jews, and they just send out...
Look, it's the intellectual dark web. Best friends with Jordan Peterson and Eric Weinstein and Ben Shapiro, and they have Joe Rogan with Barry Weiss coming on for some odd reason, who's been friends with Alex Jones for a few decades. I've seen mainstream media conservative articles saying, oh, these intellectual dark web guys are the only people that you should listen to on the right, and they're not the alt-right, they're the alt-light, and intellectual geniuses.
Faggot this and faggot that to gay people, and they'll sit in your fucking room and tell me that you love Hitler. All right, I'll get over it. You're nobody doing nothing. I'm offended by I turn on top 40 radio.
This is all the documentary.
I watch mainstream television. I'm offended over and over again. I hear Christianity shit. I hear this Muslim shit.
Oh yeah, I bet that offends you, huh? I wonder if anything in the Talmud and all of the Jewish supremacy and anti-Gentile stuff that found in your people's religion, does that offend you? No, he doesn't list that.
I hear religion every day. I see In God We Trust on our money every day.
Specifically on UC Irvine campus, it's the conservatives and the Jewish students that are silenced the most.
Oh, the poor Jews are silenced the most. That's why they needed the executive order. And remember, the reason that I'm showing you this whole Cernovich thing is because how it ties in with Dershowitz, how he's shilling for Chabad, just showing you that this is a Chabad Zionist network. Remember, Mike Cernovich, Chuck Johnson, and the founder of the facial recognition company, and then the whole controlled opposition kosher Nazis play in. A little bit more here.
They're the loudest on campus, and the administration does not.
David Horowitz, another ultra-Zionist, who Alex Jones says, I believe with 95% of what David Horowitz says, and I'm a Zionist now, basically. He says, I used to be a Marxist. David Horowitz was a Marxist as well. So these communist Zionists, you know, this contrived false dialectic, essentially. They're one and the same.
A college campus without bodyguards. That should say it all. And it's not just me. As you can see, I'm not an imposing physical threat to anyone. When I went to college in the 50s, which was the McCarthy era even, my professors, if you took one side, I was a Marxist at Columbia in the 50s.
Gender, sexual orientation, religion, believe it or not, religion is something that has become taboo on many university campuses. You can't say anything that risks offending somebody. I can't imagine ever saying anything that doesn't risk offending somebody. Why say something if it's so banal and mild that nobody could possibly get offended? As a Socratic teacher for 50 years, my job was to challenge everybody's points of view. I try to do it.
And now they are making it so you can't criticize. They're in their own little bubble, their safe space on campuses where you can't criticize Israel and Zionism. Let's see. We've had enough of this idiot. Okay, and here's Cernovich defending Dershowitz, saying, "Oh, look at this anti-Semitic cartoon. This is they need to condemn this." Look, it's Dershowitz saying, "Oh, the liberal case for Israel," which he's always defending Israel. He's always doing these PragerU videos pro-Israel, and then meanwhile they're hiding the IDF, killing Palestinians and stomping on Palestine. And then here, remember Ricky Vaughn from the article? This what was it, Dennis Mackey, or the guy affiliated with? Let me show you one more time. The guy affiliated. Oh, come on, get out of there. Control F, Ricky. Come on. VAU. Ricky Vaughn. This guy, his real name is Douglas Mackey, but Ricky Vaughn, the Twitter account, who, by the way, was busted for retweeting all of this fake Russian bot activity as well, because they're deeply involved with this, with the Chabad Lubovichers over there as well. And Ricky Vaughn also was in Cernovich's documentary. What are the odds?
Freedom of speech to me is all about power. It's all about who controls the microphone,
Israel.
Who has power, can dictate what other people are allowed to say.
Ricky Vaughn in the documentary. And then this rabbi gives a whole thing to end the documentary about, the Talmud and free speech and blah, blah, blah. Cernovich, just a million tweets every day. He's like just such a blatant Zionist propagandist. He says they're losing their Zionist identity, and I'm going to skip through, but he just says everything's anti-Semitic. He says the SPLC is white. Yeah. Look at Cohen and Dees and Levin and Potok and Uter and Kaderman. Yeah, very white Cernovich. He ended up taking that one down once everybody was calling him out too, by the way. And here he's sharing Breitbart, trying to get McMaster out because he was deeply hostile to Israel. Let's skip through these. The network, this network that he's involved with Laura Loomer, super Zionist Laura Loomer. And there's Loomer with Jacob Wohl. Jacob Wohl with Cernovich, dangerously good-looking men. Yeah, I know. Cernovich and Jack Posobiec, another big-time Zionist, works for proud supporter of Zionist Organization of America and One America News Network, who's going to be the new big funded Fox competitor. And remember, he's always retweeted by Trump as well, promoted. Here he is, Jack Posobiec, Cernovich's friend, it says, great night at ZOA dinner. There he is with Sean Spicer and ultra-Zionist Steve Bannon, former CEO of Breitbart. These guys care about free speech, right? No. Jack Posobiec retweeted the Jewish Cyber Defense Center, an account set up to get Twitter accounts that are anti-Semitic banned. He was retweeting it when they first started and was one of the first 4 followers, obviously working with these people behind the scenes. Here's Jack Posobiec, says, summer reading campaign. This is Dugin's Eurasian chaos symbol, reading Dugin's book on chaos, I believe. Here he is with another Duginite, Richard Spencer, this alt-right, another poster boy for, anti-Semitism and white supremacy, photoed together. And Richard Spencer's wife was the translator for Dugin's books. She's Russian, huge Putin supporter. And here's Cernovich and our friend, what's his name? Owen Benjamin, at a talk with Owen Benjamin. When Dershowitz, when Cernovich interfered with the Epstein, or intervened in the Epstein case, and was taking credit like, oh, I did this, Cernovich did this, I got Epstein arrested, I was calling this out, and Mr. Owen Benjamin started viciously attacking me and saying, you got to give Cernovich credit. Cernovich, he earned this, he did it. Going along with this lie that Cernovich was opposing Epstein when really he's affiliated with Epstein's network. And then he goes, oh, I hardly know Epstein. Here he is on this panel with another kosher alt-writer, Molyneux, and Proud Boys leader, InfoWars friend, Gavin McGinnis, proud Zionist in his own words. Another one is, here's Milo Yiannopoulos in Vox Day and Mike Cernovich. Vox Day was also in Cernovich's documentary Silenced, or maybe it was his next documentary. I can't remember the name of it, but definitely Vox Day was in Cernovich's documentary. Vox Day, who's been doxing my friend Davy Crocco with complete lies. Let's show you a little bit about Vox Day here, his connections to all this. Here is Vox Day proudly wearing an Israeli Zehut Party shirt. The Zehut Party leader recently joined Netanyahu's Likud party and is a huge advocate for building the Third Temple, quote, right away. Vox was also a writer for the fanatical Christian Zionist WorldNet Daily, who also wants to rebuild the temple. Here is Vox Day, a screenshot of him wearing the Zehut Party shirt. Here's the video of it. Let's show that.
Okay. Now somebody commented that I'm wearing a white shirt. This is actually a little bit more significant than you know, because I'm wearing it in the full knowledge that the mere fact that I'm discussing this topic rationally means that I'm going to be accused of asks a question, are the Jews behind your white shirt? And the answer is absolutely.
Absolutely. So I'm pausing this because he's all about copywriting and sending his troll army to go say that people are using his stuff. This is fair use, buddy.
So I will be impressed
I got to speed
if
him
any
up.
of you
I
can
forgot.
actually identify what that white shirt means.
1.5 for Vox Day. Come on, don't.
Yeah. Is it the shirt from that nationalist party? Exactly. This is a shirt from the political party Zehut, which was sent to me by one of the people in the party. They are the Israeli Nationalist Party. It is led by a very bright gentleman by the name of Moshe Feiglin.
Ooh.
He's a little bit controversial in England because he's a very strong nationalist. His nationalism is legitimate.
Okay, so Moshe Feiglin. Let me show you real quick Moshe Feiglin. Here he is. Zehut Feiglin says he wants to build the Third Temple right away. What are the odds? What are the odds of all this puzzle coming together? I mean, talk about connecting dots. I think he also calls the Zehut party the alt-right of Israel.
His nationalism is real. He believes in a Jewish homeland for the Jewish people. And, you know, they've actually been described by some as being, the Hague Report is right, they've been described by some as being the Jewish alt-right. Now, how?
The Jewish alt-right, how about that? That wants to build the temple and rule over the Gentiles and fulfill prophecy. Vox Day, yeah, I hope he likes this. Hope Owen Benjamin sees this too after attacking me viciously like he did with a bunch of lies. Vox Day wrote for WorldNet Daily. He was a staff writer writing tons of articles. Look at all these articles there. He was writing for them for a long time. And Here's some WorldNet Daily headlines. Israeli politician wants to build the third temple now. Campaign launched to create gold crown for Messiah. 7 days until dedication of third temple altar. Why am I an Arab Christian Zionist? That's the founder of WorldNet Daily, Joseph Farah, who's been on InfoWars a bunch of times as well. And he won Journalist of the Year from the Zionist Organization of America in 2003 for his push in propaganda to help lead them into the war on terror. And I do want to say, though, Vox did have a little video saying debunks Judeo-Christianity. I don't know how deeply he's involved and knows about all this temple stuff and exactly what he knows, but it definitely doesn't look good. And speaking of the ADL and how the ADL almost like props out and makes all these people famous and uses them as the poster boys. We got Spencer, the Duganite. We've got, this is the alt-right. There's Andrew Anglin from Daily Stormer with Weave. There's Weave there too. Notice I haven't been attacked by the ADL. I've got larger following, more popular videos, but pushing the truth in a respectful, tasteful way, using their own words. We have, who else did I want to show you here? Jason Kessler. He was involved with Charlottesville. Used to be a liberal. Andrew Heimbach. He's another Duganite that was there at Charlottesville. Proud Duganite. I'm looking for Cernovich. Spencer, Vox Day, champion of the alt-right movement who claims to have popularized term cuckser. I saw a Jewish woman on Twitter, Baked Alaska, try to call me alt-right the other day. I've never called myself alt-right. I'm not alt-right. Pasobik, all of these alt-right anti-Semites mysteriously have all these connections to Zionism in Israel and Chabad Lubavitch. And here, Cerno. And that doesn't mean that everybody that's been attacked by the ADL is controlled, but definitely they seem to, cheerleaders, including Mike Cernovich as well. Okay, where are we at now? So there's Cernovich, Vox Day, Milo, and then on Alex Jones, we have this guy, what's his name? On Twitter, it's Perpetual Maniac. He blocked me on both of my Twitter accounts. He's the guy, this Google whistleblower who's working with Project Veritas and PragerU and goes on InfoWars in studio all the time. He got his close buddy Vox Day on Alex Jones. So I thought it was a little suspicious that we've got Owen Benjamin is attacking Alex Jones all the time, and then his business partner with unauthorized their website goes on Alex Jones and gets promoted. And this guy, Zach, that's what it is, Zach Zorfonios, Zohai or something, he blocked me on both my accounts, and he says that I'm a shill because I call Alex Jones a Zionist shill. So if you're watching, Zach, I'd like to see you prove anything I've covered in this wrong at all, you little twerp. And I see people promoting him, and just know, similar to Luke Rudowski, Jason Burmis, and these people, they are afraid. So now, Cernovich's, I always get Dershowitz and Cernovich mixed up every time. Dershowitz's connections to Chabad. We have Chabad honors Alan Dershowitz. Famed defense attorney Alan Dershowitz honored with the Torah scroll written in his name following aid to Shalom Rubishkin. That was the kosher slaughterhouse rabbi that Trump pardoned. Cernovich is praising Dershowitz, says Rubishkin is an example of an easy win. Life is hard for everyone, especially Trump. Got to take the quick wins when they show up. Asia Bibi is a gimme. I don't even know what Asia Bibi is, but more info on Dershowitz. He was not just getting awards from Chabad for getting Rubishkin pardoned, but according to History Commons here, Dershowitz helped get the dancing Israelis who were arrested celebrating on 9/11. They were set up with a camera facing at the World Trade Center spotted by a witness before the first plane hit. They were later arrested. They had cash, tons of cash in their socks. They had tickets to fly to different places all over the world. They were working for a known Mossad front company, Urban Moving Systems. The FBI interviewed another employee there, and it said, yeah, these Israelis there were very anti-American. They said, quote, give us 20 years and we'll take over your media and destroy your country. That's what these people said. And according to a source at ABC News, well-known criminal lawyer Alan Dershowitz also becomes involved as a negotiator to help get the men released. Dershowitz will later refuse to comment on the matter. I wonder why. ABC News will later report that was, quote, high-level negotiations between Israeli and U.S. government officials over the 5 men, resulting in a settlement. And Homeland Security, who was it? Another big Zionist. What is his name? He was the first head of Homeland Security. Help me in the chat, guys. Let's get a little interactive. What is his name? First Homeland Security. I'm usually so good with these names, but come on, why does it not say it? He wrote the Patriot Act. He helped get these people home too. Let's see. Do you guys have it yet? Chertoff, Michael Chertoff. His father was a Talmudic rabbi. Thank you, chat. I know you guys know. He was involved, I believe, too, getting these guys sent home. And then they went on TV and said that, yeah, they were there to document the event. And Dershowitz got them sent home. Dershowitz also was the lawyer for Israeli Mossad spy Jonathan Pollard, who they used. They had Jonathan Pollard. They tried to get Jonathan Pollard released with the surveillance that they did on Clinton with Lewinsky, the Clinton-Lewinsky tapes. They tried to blackmail Clinton to get Pollard released. And I wonder how Matt Drudge knew about Lewinsky and that scandal. I wonder if Drudge is connected to Mossad. Jonathan Pollard was Israel's prolific American spy. So Dershowitz is like pretty obviously a Mossad lawyer, and that's why he's working for Trump right now. Dershowitz was also Epstein's lawyer and got his own massages from Epstein's girls, but he claims it was from an old lady and he kept his underwear on, even though he's being accused by Virginia Guthrie of rape as well. And Trump hires Dershowitz and Ken Starr to be his defense. I mean, how obvious is it? The Labor nominee Acosta cut the deal with Epstein. He gets appointed by Trump as well. Here's another great graphic from exposetheenemy.com. John Swin showing Epstein, Dershowitz, Trump, Cohn, Rupert Murdoch, Ronald Reagan. The web they weave. Already showed this one. Chuck Johnson, Mike Cernovich working for Alan Dershowitz. Horowitz, we showed him too, how he connects to Shillman, Robert Mercer, who was it? Robert Mercer was the Manhattan Institute. Robert Spencer, that's the guy with Pamela Geller that held that Draw Muhammad contest. And then we got Loomer, Tommy Robinson, Rebel Media's Jack Posobiec, James O'Keefe, Project Veritas, affiliated with InfoWars, Shillman, Rosenwald, who funds the Gatestone Institute. James O'Keefe and Project Veritas was also funded by Trump, and they were funded by the Jewish Federation of San Francisco, who also funds Canary Mission. So it's just, I mean, it's not that hard to remember all these people. It's the same names, same organizations, the same cabal, the same Chabad Zionist cabal that just is behind all of this. Okay, here's Dershowitz talking about Chabad some more.
What attracts...
This is a 1992 or 94 documentary about Chabad Lubavitch.
What attracts me to the Lubavitcher Rebbe is his incredible energy and the energy of his movement in trying to bring the message all around the world. The influence of the Lubavitch in the Soviet Union is beyond calculation. When I watched last Hanukkah, the Lubavitch involved in a candlelight.
Did you hear that? Chabad Lubavitch in the Soviet Union was, what was the term he used?
When I influence of the Lubavitch in the The influence of the Lubavitch in the Soviet Union is beyond calculation.
Beyond
when
calculation.
I watched last Hanukkah the Lubavitch involved in a candle lighting ceremony in the middle of the Kremlin, when 5 years ago I was representing people who were going to jail for lighting Hanukkah candles, I love the Lubavitcher Rebbe as a political figure. Isn't it ironic? I reject the Lubavitcher Rebbe as a religious leader, and I admire him tremendously as a political figure.
The Rebbe is a Jewish supremacist that thinks Gentiles are not even the same species as them. And then when my friend Jeremy Roth Kushel, who is a co-host of The Antidote on YouTube, he called into C-SPAN when Dershowitz is on and called him out on all this. And Dershowitz just says, ha ha ha, this is a conspiracy theory. You're so crazy.
Mr. Dershowitz, your background in defending Pollard and then Epstein suggests that you might be an agent of a Russian-Israeli axis. So I'd ask you to address that.
Russian-Israeli Chabad Lubavitch axis.
From a Jewish-American patriot of conscience perspective, that's me.
Okay. I mean, that's just paranoid drivel. The fact that I'm a Russian
Paranoid. Everything I've just showed you. Do you think that's paranoid?
Agent, and I'm an Israeli agent. I'm an independent person. I represented Jonathan Pollard because I thought his sentence was way, way excessive.
And here's Cernovich saying the same thing when he gets called out. He says, unfortunately, that once respected reporter, he's talking about Stranahan, who was on Cernovich's case and Posobiec's case with this whole Epstein situation, says that they're spreading anti-Semitic conspiracy theories about him, claiming he's an agent of Mossad. Worse has been said about me. I don't mind. Feel bad for those suffering from mental health issues and anti-Jew paranoia. Yeah, anybody that sees this tweet, Mike, after watching my video is going to know you are a fork-tongued, snake, lying fraud. Okay, there's Roger Stone. Andrew... Oh, I didn't even get deep into Andrew Heyemeyer. I guess I'll get to that in a second. Okay, we have... Here, we'll go to that now. So, a little bit more on Weave, the guy from Daily Stormer, the kosher-controlled opposition, in my opinion. The vetting of Weave. This is from Occidental Dissent. And you know, I just want to do a little disclaimer. I know how people lie about me online, so I'm just reporting what other people are saying and what it looks like. Legitimate white nationalist website would celebrate mass shootings, promote misogynation and prostitution, foment hatred against white women, and discourage traditional values like marriage and family. That's Weave from the Daily Stormer. And I've seen the clips too. I'm not going to go through them. It'll get my video censored anyway. They've gone out of their way to make the alt-right look terrible. Before he was sent to prison, he says that he was Jewish. He says, Weave's line is related to Theodor Herzl, the founder of modern Zionism. So he has blood ties to Zionist thought. It is a very nuanced and complex issue. And he says that 10% of them wanted to rebuild the temple and initiate the apocalypse. And he's been all over Huffington Post. He's been on CNBC, really being propped up. He says his mom did an interview saying that he's got Jewish ancestors on both sides. His OkCupid profile claimed he's a Bavarian Jew who takes satanic joy in corrupting white women. I mean, just from the look at him, you can tell. This is an alt-right white supremacist leader. This is the boogeyman in Cernovich and Dershowitz's and Feldman Chabad's documentary. There's his mom told Newsweek that he's got the most certainly has Jewish lineage on both sides of his family. He used to be involved with Occupy Wall Street. And the most important thing, this is a long article. Andrew Weave, he's subversive white nationalist infiltrator. His assignment is to demonize the white nationalist movement and keep whites away from it and support his Jewish tribe. He's a Hollywood Nazi, style rhetoric and other subversive tactics. It says he hacked college printers twice in an attempt to keep young whites from learning the truth about you-know-whos. There he is with his swastika, that global white supremacy. It's just so over the top, like Hollywood theatrics. He says the most over the top stuff, like justifies murder and stuff. And the most important part is he's connected to Chabad Lubavitch as well. Weave and Andrew Anglin first manifested in 2014. Over the course of 5 years, they have come into the online space and associated the alt-right brand with cartoon Nazism, gutter nihilism, and vulgarity. Second, with God Emperor Donald Trump and conservatism. And finally, with loser nationalism in the form of white Sharia incel rape gangs and celebration of mass shootings, all while repeatedly disrupting, polarizing, and dividing the movement. And the most important part is his website at one point was registered to an apartment in New York that was owned by his friend Alex Polasov. Daily Stormer was registered by Weave to the Manhattan apartment of a Jewish man, Alex Polasov, who is an internet security expert. How did the world's most genocidal Republican website come to be registered to the apartment of a Chabad Lubavitch Jew in Manhattan? It turns out there's a simple explanation. Pilasov is a longtime friend, supporter, and associate of Weave since his pre-prison hacktivist days. So there is another Chabad connection with this controlled opposition, and this is the way they do it. There's a photo of them together, and remember I showed you here's Roger Stone, who has his Zohar and his friends with Talmudic Sheriff Israel in Broward County, who has this facial recognition software. He says Gab just banned Weave, and Cernovich and Pilasov didn't say anything, I guess, didn't back him up. So he says, F you both. So all in the same network. Now, they are using groups like this to demonize and to justify more authoritarian censorship and to label anybody that opposes them as domestic terrorists. We've got this Kabbalah bracelet Jewish man in Congress here presses Trump officials to label white supremacist groups as terrorists. That's what they're pushing in Congress right now. See, we have the Kabbalah Jewish supremacist bracelet as he's picking his nose there. And Jonathan Greenblatt of the ADL was there on the panel calling for this and praising Trump's executive order. There's the Kabbalah bracelet as well. ADL is always talking about white supremacy when it's obvious that Jewish supremacy is the real threat. Chabad, America's white militant neo-anti-Semitism. What are the causes and how can we defeat it? White supremacy, and this is the narrative everywhere, proving that white supremacy isn't running things. You can't talk about Jewish supremacy because, as my Jewish friend Gilad Atzman says, Jewish power is the power to silence opposition to Jewish power. That's why when I make videos exposing Jewish supremacy, I get censored, demonetized, limited, stated, kicked off of PayPal, and we see headlines everywhere vilifying white people and this manufactured, controlled opposition extremes. White supremacy has triggered a terrorism panic. DHS warns against growing threat of white supremacist extremism online. DHS, domestic terrorism, particularly white supremacist violence, as big a threat as ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Remember, the Manhattan Institute set up all of this stuff to go after Al-Qaeda and the war on terror. It was really being put in place all along for their opposition of European people. And that's who it's being implemented on now. DHS is finally going after white supremacists. It's not going to be simple. The Atlantic. White nationalism is killing us. White supremacists by default. How ordinary people make Charlottesville possible. Like, I love how you hear about Charlottesville all the time. Look at all these shady characters associated with it. They've got these photos of these KKK guys in hoods. Like, let's get real. There is no KKK. They have no institutional power. They're no threat. They hype it up like this latest base thing I'll show you in a second. Trump's terrorist, white supremacist terrorism. trending on Twitter. The internet is radicalizing white men. Big tech could be doing more. Censor the white anti-Semites. This is funny. Jacob Wohl, who's a Jewish Zionist, they retweet him and say, white people are the most evil beings on this whole planet. That gets 122,000 likes. 122,000 people are blaming white people for Jacob Wohl and Zionism in their wars. And mind you, Kabbalah, this is the Kabbalah Tree of Life from Ginsburg's book, and it says that we understand that the non-Jewish identity is to be subordinate to the Jewish identity. These Jewish supremacists are projecting their supremacy. And here's ADL.
Pass the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act to ensure that law enforcement agencies deal with violent extremists on the home front. And lastly, I want to encourage the State Department to examine whether violent white supremacist organizations overseas, those frequently connecting with and inspiring equally violent hate groups here at home, meet the criteria to be designated foreign terrorist organizations. If these groups are a threat to our homeland, and if Americans are supporting them, we can bring the full force of the law and society against them.
The full force of the law against them. So they'll label me a terrorist and they'll throw me in jail. And they use this with another controlled opposition group that just got exposed recently. The ADL here writing about them, the base. The base, the ADL writes about, all about Daily Stormer too, their boogeyman that they use to justify. Here's the founder and the guy that running the base with his Russia Putin shirt. And I mean, he looks like the merchant meme with that schnoz on him. This is the white supremacist group that they're fear-mongering about so much recently. Let me show you. Revealed the true identity of the leader of an American neo-Nazi terror group. Here he is, the base. U.S.-born Ronaldo Nazzaro, who has a long history of advertising his services as an intelligence, military, and security contractor, so he's a Fed. He has claimed under alias to have served in Russia and Afghanistan. There's evidence supporting his claims of being based in Russia, where he lives with his Russian wife, who's pro-Putin. And interesting that the base translates as, Al-Qaeda means the base. So it's like this is another Fed op, the white supremacy group. They planned terror campaigns, vandalized synagogues, so they can pad the ADL stats and let them play the victim exactly like they want. Nazzaro stressed the importance of in-person meetups so he can find these low IQ losers so they can set up and justify, labeling anybody a terrorist. The base's propaganda videos show young men undergoing combat training together in rural areas. Just to give, like a Hollywood version to give them exactly what they want. And next one we have prepping for a race war. Documents reveal inner workings of neo-Nazi group. Their chats were infiltrated with Antifa activists. Interesting, in that they were doxxed apparently. Speaking of Antifa activists, look at these guys that they arrested. This is supposed to be white supremacists. They look like Weave. They look like Antifa guys. They look like white Aryans to me. They don't look like Europeans to me at all. But that's who was arrested. A pathway to violence. Let's see, do we have any highlights here? Yeah, a great photo of them looking all military and with their faces hidden there. It's just, and this is the guy, members of the group. He was in Russia. A lot of the guys at Charlottesville were very pro-Putin and Dugin and think they were chanting, "Russia is our friend." It's long been speculated in the neo-Nazi community that Speer was an intelligence officer aligned with either the Kremlin or the FBI. BBC reported that Navarro attended a Russian government security exhibition in Moscow last year as a guest. So he's basically a Putin agent. What is this? Oh, that's Sheriff Scott. Okay, back to this. Christopher John Bjerknes writes about Putin's kosher Nazis in his book, Putin's Reign of Terror, The Permanent Revolution in Our Time. He says here, let's zoom in a bit. And I'm almost done. We're getting near the end. Thanks for sticking with me. Make sure to give a like. Once in place, okay, Jews and communists often pretend to be, quote, anti-Semites so they can infiltrate any resistance to Jewish power. Once in place, they act as agent provocateurs and propagandists for Jewish causes, including Putin's Bolshevism. Given their role to subvert anti-Jewish causes into serving Jewish interests, they typically adopt hypocritical views and promote infighting and discord. Do you see me promoting infighting and discord? Never infighting. These people are referred to as kosher Nazis. Kosher Nazis attempt to dominate websites like Stormfront and promote Putin and Trump. Despite the fact that they pretend to oppose undue and disproportionate Jewish influence, they defend Trump's thoroughly Jewish administration and family and promote KGB communist Vladimir Putin as if a god who will save the white race by destroying the West. And it says... kosher Nazi Putin supporters are grossly hypocritical in their apologetics for Jewish-controlled politicians, including Trump and Putin, and their hatred of the West and glorification of Russia, Red China, and North Korea. On the other hand, Putin is grossly hypocritical in his support for these groups in the West while criminalizing the same conduct in Russia. Putin is obviously creating a controlled opposition in these kosher Nazi groups and using, and I'm going to support this in a second, that Putin does these controlled opposition groups. And this is from Putin's Reign of Terror. I sound like George Bush, huh? Christopher John Bjerknes' book. I suggest you guys all pick it up. It's on Amazon. He's busy writing a new book. I wish I could get him back on. KGB Putin has made nationalism and anti-Semitism illegal in Russia. Remember, True News just interviewed Putin's Chabad rabbi who said it's, quote, in style to be Jewish in Russia, and anti-Semitism is essentially non-existent in Russia. You know, any mild criticism in America, they scream anti-Semitism. So if Chabad is saying anti-Semitism is non-existent in Russia, it really must be, you know, what is the deal? Must not be going on. Similar to the Soviet Union when the Bolsheviks took over, it's probably illegal. You go to prison for questioning World War II. And what was I going to say? Oh, also top Jews in Russia say that Putin is not only not anti-Semitic, he's philo-Semitic. He loves Jewish people. Putin, KGB, has made it illegal, just like Bolshevik Lenin did immediately after he took over Russia. Under Putin, harsh laws have led to a crackdown on ultra-nationalist groups that had once flourished in Russia, and Putin has violated fundamental human right of free speech and made it illegal to quote the Bible in any way which is critical of Jews. Interesting, there's an article out just today, I shared it on Twitter, that Saudi Arabia is putting out new versions of the Quran that have been kosherized, where to not say anything bad about Jews or Judaism. They legislated a law outlawing distorted or extremist commentary on scriptures, and it's biblical verses for anti-Semitic purposes. This is, and Bjerknes wrote this in 2016 or 17 is when it came out. And we just saw this recently in the news at the Holocaust events that Putin was being accused of rewriting the history of World War II. Putin promotes Holocaust mythology and has made it illegal in Russia to criticize the official Soviet Jewish narrative of the Second World War. Excuse me. And Putin donated his salary for a Holocaust Jewish museum as well. The largest Jewish history museum in the world, they say. And Burrell Lazar, okay, let's skip through. So you guys get the point from that. Now let me play a little extract from the Adam Curtis documentary. He's the one that made Century of Self and the what was it? The Something of Nightmares. I'll look it up in a second. This is hyper-normalization about Putin and controlled opposition, and the Yuri Bezmenov demoralization, where they put out so much contradictory info and they're propping up so many controlled opposition leaders that you don't know who to trust, you don't know what's true, or anything like that. The Power of Nightmares, that was Adam Curtis's other documentary. Here we go.
But in Russia, there was a group of men who had seen how this very lack of belief in politics and dark uncertainty about the future could work to their advantage. What they had done was turn politics into a strange theatre, where nobody knew what was true or what was fake any longer. They were called political technologists, and they were the key figures behind President Putin. They had kept him in power, unchallenged, for 15 years. Then a technologist emerged who went much further, and his ideas would become central to Putin's grip on power. He was called Vladislav Surkov. Surkov came originally from the theatre world, and those who have studied his career say that what he did was take avant-garde ideas from the theatre and bring them into the heart of politics. Surkov's aim was not just to manipulate people, but to go deeper and play with and undermine their very perception of the world, so they are never sure what is really happening. Surkov turned Russian politics into a bewildering, constantly changing piece of theatre. He used Kremlin money to sponsor all kinds of groups, from mass anti-fascist youth organizations to the very opposite, neo-Nazi skinheads.
So there you go. Putin used the Kremlin to fund Antifa, anti-fascists, which Putin is supporting Antifa to go after neo-Nazis in Ukraine. And think about the Antifa and Proud Boys fighting, and then Antifa and Charlottesville fighting. Is that reminding anybody of these things? And Dugin, Alexander Dugin, wrote in his book, "It is especially important to introduce geopolitical disorder into internal American activity, encouraging all kinds of separatism and ethnic, social, and racial conflicts, actively supporting all dissident movements." That means the alt-right, that means Black Lives Matter, Antifa, supporting all dissident movements, extremist, racist, and sectarian groups, thus destabilizing internal political processes in the U.S. It would also make sense simultaneously to support isolationist tendencies in American politics.
And liberal human rights groups who then attacked the government. Surkov even backed whole political parties that were opposed to President Putin.
So like Lenin said, the best way to control the opposition is to lead it. He funds the groups that are against him.
But the key thing was that Surkov then let it be known that this was what he was doing, which meant that no one was sure what was real or what was fake in modern Russia. As one journalist put it, it's a strategy of power that keeps any opposition constantly confused.
And this is exactly what I experience. It's like you don't know who to trust, who's for real, who's telling the truth. There's a bunch of people always lying and attacking about me as well. So it's like my only advice is don't listen to multiple sources. Always study the opposite side of what you think you believe or what you're hearing. Don't trust anybody, but research things for yourself. If people make claims that aren't backed up by sources or stuff, what else could I say? That's about it. Research all sides. Don't trust anybody. Just follow what they say. Look at their sources. See if they're legit. If it makes sense. It's so hard. It's a full-time job for people to even try to figure out what's going on. And when there's so much disinformation and contradictory information, it really is hard. Like I do this full time. I've been doing this, studying this obsessively for over 10 years. And I don't even know if I know what's going on. It's just insane.
A ceaseless shape-shifting that is unstoppable because it is indefinable. Meanwhile, real power was elsewhere, hidden away behind the stage, exercised without anyone seeing it. And then, the same thing seemed to start happening in the West. The campaign that Donald Trump ran was unlike anything before in politics. Nothing was fixed. What he said, who he attacked, and how he attacked them was constantly changing and shifting. Trump attacked his Republican rivals as being all part of a broken and corrupt system, a politics where everyone could be bought, using words that could have come from the Occupy movement.
You've also donated to several Democratic candidates, Hillary Clinton included, Nancy Pelosi. You explained away those donations saying you did that to get business-related favors. And you said recently, quote, when you give, they do whatever the hell you want them to do.
You better believe it.
So what specifically did they do?
If I ask them, if I need them, most of the people on this stage I've given to, just so you understand, a lot of money. I will tell you that our system is broken. I give to many people. Before 2 months ago, I was a businessman. I give to everybody. When they call, I give. And you know what? When I need something from them, 2 years later, 3 years later, I call them. They are there for me. And that's a broken system.
But at the same time, Trump used the language of the extreme racist right in America, connecting with people's darkest fears, pushing them, and bringing those fears out into the open.
I saw somebody say controlled chaos. It definitely is chaos is what they want.
Many of the facts that Trump asserted were also completely untrue, but Trump didn't care. He and his audience knew that much of what he said bore little relationship to reality. This meant that Trump defeated journalism, because the journalists' central belief was that their job was to expose lies and assert the truth. With Trump, this became irrelevant. Not surprisingly, Vladimir Putin admired this.
Vladimir Putin admired Trump. They're surrounded by the same Chabad mafia.
Что вы думаете о Дональде Трампе? Ну, он яркий очень человек, талантливый, без всяких сомнений.
He's a very colorful person, talented, without any doubt. But it's not our affair to determine his worthiness. Well, we know that obviously Putin supported Trump. And then...
Конечно, мы это приветствуем. Все, что повторю еще.
The liberals were outraged by Trump, but they expressed their anger in cyberspace, so it had no effect, because the algorithms made sure that they only spoke to people who already agreed with them.
This is why it's so important to talk to people you know in real life and spread this information with anybody that will listen. You can't just watch videos online. You can't just complain on Twitter in your echo chambers. I can't do it without you guys. It's not up to me, it's up to all of us.
Instead, ironically, their waves of angry messages and tweets benefited the large corporations who ran the social media platforms. One online analyst put it simply: angry people click more.
Angry people click. Okay, so now, Alex Jones connected to Cernovich, Posobiec, Laura Loomer, pro-Trump. He had Dugan on. He's very pro-Putin and Donald Trump, Zionist. Now we're going to get a little Alex Jones where he comes into all of this. Mike Cernovich here tweets that he talks to a guy that was in Delta Force. So remember that. He knows Delta Force. And this is from a video. Is Alex Jones a government agent? And look, we got Bibi and Putin down here. And Trump in the back giving his thumbs up with all of these Mossad, tip of the spear, Delta Force symbols. Watch a little of this.
You know what? The public deserves to hear this and to get it straight. Now, how did you get Donald Trump on your show prior to the election? How did you pull that off?
All right. I never tell this on my own show, and this will probably end up being news tomorrow, but you deserve it. I know folks that are part of Delta Force.
Oh, Delta Force.
And I know people that are part of covert action in the Defense Department and the CIA. And quite frankly, they've given me authorization to talk about this. I have never been in the CIA. I have never been part of covert operations. But
this is literally psychological operations is what we're witnessing. Jones is Joe Rogan, top alternative media. You don't think they got their hands in alternative media too?
I was basically contacted by groups inside the Special Forces operations in Florida, inside breakaway groups inside the Central Intelligence Agency, and groups basically behind.
This is psychological operations, airborne. Notice tip of the spear too. They have a spear for all of this. Tasked to work with foreign nations to induce or reinforce behavior favorable to U.S. objectives. USA SOC commands, special forces. Here's Alex Jones admitting that he's involved with all of this stuff.
An American industry that wanted to defeat the globalists, and they're planning to bankrupt America. And so they told me that they were advising Trump on the globalist takeover, and that they understood from their demographics and their studies that we actually had conservatively 15 million people a week visiting Infowars.com and tens of millions watching our videos, and that they had briefed the president, or now then candidate Trump, and that they wanted to attempt a counter coup against the globalists.
But this is what got Donald Trump to say, I got to be on this guy's show?
Donald Trump was advised by the Special Forces Command out of Florida. They said,
Tampa Bay, Florida, USSOCOM, the tip of the spear, more controlled opposition, pro-Trump.
To go on your program.
I mean, that's who actually, let's just say it, the enemy already knows all this. Let me just say this, everybody listening knows I'm telling the truth. Special Operations Command in Florida, the Delta Force, Army, Black Ops, Army's the oldest thing in America. It's before the Constitution, anything. They said, sir, you need to go with Alex Jones, and you need to rally the troops. And they briefed him. They showed him the documents, and they said, we need you to run. And the Delta.
Where do you think all this QAnon crap is coming from? Jack Posobiec, Cambridge Analytica, this kind of Delta Force, Steve Pieczenik crap. Oh, the deep state, the white hats in government are fighting the deep state.
Force basically asked Trump, Delta Force, founded by General Boykin and Schumacher and people like Steve Pieczenik, Dr. Steve Pieczenik.
Boykin's been on the show too. Steve Pieczenik's always on the show, giving you some good truth, but then spinning it at the end to still be pro-Trump and pro-Kushner.
Of psychological operations of the CIA. They basically delivered the message to Trump with all the dossiers and all the proof of what was happening. And he just said, you're highly recommended. All I can say is we're going to be talking a lot more because he was being briefed by top generals. I'm not going to say the name on what we're doing. And it's not that I'm even special. I'm willing to say this. I'm willing to do this. I wasn't directed by anybody. I was just aware of the operations. I was studying it, as you know. You're a Navy guy yourself. And we just did what we had to do. We did a counter coup against them. I'd say 90% of the CIA, Defense Intelligence, military, special ops is behind us. George, you're getting the absolute data dump right now.
Steve Pieczenik says he's the deep state. And a lot of this research and clips comes from Matthew North. You see his name up there? His channel's Matthew North.
So there's a real war going on in the elite right now. Don't think Trump just did this on his own. He was recruited by patriots and U.S. intelligence agencies for a fact.
You guys tired of winning?
Trump was recruited by the U.S. Army. That's a big secret, but you deserve to know what the Democrats already know. You deserve to understand what's really going on. That's exactly what all our sources from the FBI and the Pentagon, which means the CIA connected Pentagon, that's special operations, that's what they told us. And these are the good guys that continue to give us good info. Doesn't mean the whole thing's good. InfoWars is the tip of the spear, the tip of the spear, the tip of the spear. Oh, Alex Jones is wrong about Anthony Bourdain. Hey, Joe, I talked to the people that were there in the production at the highest levels. They're involved in the Pentagon, everything else. I know all about it. Elon Musk. I mean, Joe, I'm not going to tell you.
Elon Musk, who's business partners with Peter Thiel, connected to Elon Musk, also photo with Ghislaine Maxwell.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and by the way, Anthony Bourdain was probably murdered by Black Cube. He tweeted about Black Cube and working with Ehud Barak and Weinstein. Ehud Barak, who was invested with Palantir and Epstein and Peter Thiel. And you know who else was talking about Black Cube? And I have the clip. It's not ready, but Isaac Cappy was talking about Cernovich, Posobiec, Alex Jones, Zionist, Black Cube, and then he mysteriously died. Oh, by the way, I am not suicidal. I love life. I am healthy. All my numbers are just, like Trump says, I'm the most healthiest man ever. Would never, ever, ever in a million years kill myself.
you know, who I talked to yesterday or who I talked to this afternoon. So just let's quit pretending that we aren't the tip of the spear.
Oh, was that a code? Quit pretending that we're not the tip of the spear. And that was a little warning when he was beefing with Joe Rogan. And what happened? He goes right back on Joe Rogan's show and they're buddies and everything's okay.
For the spear. Let's quit pretending that we aren't the tip of the spear. 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 So it's behind enemy lines, resistance fighters, carrying out total resistance operations using HUMAT and using covert action. Covert action. Dr. Pachenik, again, I mean, you don't do a lot of other interviews. You've been nice to come on my show for 15 years. It's on record with General Boykin and with Schumacher. You helped found Delta Force, Black Ops, ran psychological warfare, overthrown 8 countries. You're the Jack Ryan character. Co-wrote books with Clancy, Hollywood producer. You've done it all. Psychiatrist, MIT scientist, military officer, all that secret, obviously, in your history. But here you are saying you represent the intelligence community, and I check with people, generals, colonels, they go, absolutely, Pachenik's on target. You're one of the foremost psychological warfare guys ever. You got the Camp David Accords passed. You're credited for running those.
Menachem Begin, that's the terrorist, the Likud terrorist that was a Jabotinsky, the extremist Zionist. Oh, he's involved with that. What do you know? What do you know?
Stuff the court ever. And then right through the modern times behind the scenes. Right through the modern times behind the scenes. You're talking to folks inside the government. You're talking to all your contacts, different agencies you were with. With the State Department, you were basically with them all. And now, clearly, people understand we have to act.
We had a counter coup, which was initiated several days ago by some of the people in 16 different organizations, as you mentioned.
I know Trump's already doing this, but when they're organizing violence and moving, and I can see they're moving with it behind the scenes, it's time for covert action, and it just has to happen. So if people kind of see InfoWars as a bellwether where the people sit, I'm just saying.
Oh, I forgot to mention, important note, Jones just had Richard Spencer on the other day, too, which is like odd that came about, and they seem to get along real well. I thought that was interesting.
I think the president and the military has to do what it has to do at this point. I mean, it would be negligent to sit here at this point.
We're talking traitors to America, Zionist traitors that are probably blackmailed with some serious stuff.
It's over. And I've been on the phone with the Pentagon. I've been on the phone with the Patriots. I've been in, because, thank God the Army in the 50s, when they were trying to make us lose.
The Patriots.
When the CIA was trying to make us lose to North Korea and the Chinese. The Army got pissed then and created stay-behind networks in America. And see, I'm not one of those stay-behind networks.
Yeah,
I just come from the same cloth as those people. And so I seamlessly merge right into it.
Okay.
And yes, I'll just tell you, we are a stay-behind network for America. It's the big secret. That's what we are. It's why they're after us. It's true. The stay-behind networks support me. I'm from a stay-behind network. Most of my family was in stay-behind networks.
The fact that you have become a very serious threat to the establishment has already been a very major accomplishment of the counter coup. And that's why our intelligence services works through this and they're not using you. They're simply stating.
Sure, none of us are manipulating each other. We just see the same thing happening.
They were going to probably kill me or arrest me, and I was shown all the data transmissions, all the information. I was shown WikiLeaks, all of it, before it was even, they're going to subpoena me. They're coming after me right now.
Remember, Roger Stone was indicted for something with WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks was widely accused of working with Guccifer and the Russians and all that stuff. It all ties in.
And we decided that there was something we had to do in order to save the republic.
Would Trump have gotten elected without WikiLeaks? Remember, Trump was like, "I love WikiLeaks," and then now they've got Assange is arrested, and he can't go to trial and stuff. It's all very suspicious.
So we initiated a counter coup through.
And there was a bunch of Zionists working for WikiLeaks as well. I can't remember the name of it. I know one of my friends did a video on it. I'm sure you guys know. Assange always poo-pooed 9/11 truth as well. And rarely, where are all the WikiLeaks exposing Israel? I think once Assange was asked about that, and he says, "Oh yeah, we haven't found anything," or like they're just too good at hiding it or something.
Julian Assange, who's been very brave and really quite formidable in his ability to come forth and provide all the necessary emails that we gave to him in order to undermine Hillary and Bill Clinton.
Do you know why has Steve Pieczenik not been attacked in the mainstream media? Why hasn't he been dragged in front of Congress and indicted for that statement right there? They're admitting it all, and none of it has happened. Very bizarre.
You know which agency leaked the information to Assange? Because this is being...
I don't want to identify it. Do I know? Yes. Do I want to identify it? No. And the reason for that has to do with my long-standing
I understand. So what about the word, though? If Hillary really wants to push, there's going to be a press conference of a bunch of different agencies.
Well, in terms of what? Their agency?
Well, people just coming out and saying, I released it, I leaked it, I did it.
Okay, well, that's their prerogative, but I do not want to reveal who and with
I totally understand. I totally understand. Well, let me say this.
That will not happen.
I remember 30 years ago, I was getting politically involved. 27 years ago. And all these old-timers, and these guys were like colonels in the Army and Air Force generals, and I'd go to these meetings and I was like...
JBS, I believe, was infiltrated by B'nai B'rith. I think I remember hearing that. Pretty sure of it.
Like 18, and you'd like go in there, there'd be some 3-star general, and there were like 20 dudes at an IHOP, and you're sitting there, with the former Marine Corps 3-star general or a former 3-star Air Force weapons head, or, and they're like telling you this stuff, and you're like, what? And they're like, listen, they tried to recruit us. You're going to have to get ready. And, I knew all this stuff, and then it just all turned out to be real. I remember being 4 years old with like an FBI agent and an Army colonel and all these people at my dad's house, and they're all sitting around the table talking about this and how do we beat it. And just all these decades later, 40 years later, it's all true. It's all true. I mean, I was so blessed to be born into people that knew what was happening. I'm not in any intelligence agency. I'm not in any part of that group.
All the videos.
The John Birch Society, which I was never a member of. My dad gave speeches for him and stuff in high school. I mean, just because...
Okay. Oh, here's one more. This is the best part.
To do this, there's a civil war in America right now. One group wanted to totally sell us out the communist Chinese. That's coming up in the next segment. The other group isn't out to rape America completely.
That's the Zionist he's talking about. The other group that I've teamed up with is Zionism, and really they're controlling all sides. China too. Israel and Netanyahu working closely with China and the Soviet Union. They're all secret communists.
So you're kind of stuck between that.
I can't believe I'm telling this right now. I'm just going to go all the way right now. And the situation in Syria and Egypt and our friends in Israel. You say people want to demonize Israel all day. It's because the real folks that are in Israel, the real people, understand what it is to be persecuted and targeted. And Israel, with Benjamin Netanyahu, they're trying to remove from office right now. Again, I was never even a fan of Netanyahu. I wasn't his enemy.
Yes,
I just wasn't studying it. Have come to America's aid.
Hear that? Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel has come to America's aid. That's what he's telling people. I mean, it's so over the top. And remember, that guy, Zach Perpetual Maniac, on Vox Day with Alex Jones, calling me a shill for exposing all this stuff? I don't think so.
To defeat this.
So you're saying Rothschilds are backing Trump versus the eugenics-based Rockefellers?
Exactly. If you kind of look at the people behind...
I got told that by CIA sources 3 years ago. They said, you're bashing the Rothschilds. Watch what they're about to do. They're going to try to actually give wealth back to the people. Not because they're even good. They don't want a total worldwide bloodbath.
Hear that, guys? The Rothschilds are going to bring wealth back to the people. And remember, Rothschild Bank top banker Wilbur Ross bailed out Trump when he was $4 billion in debt in the early 90s. I wonder if he owes them anything for that.
And now we actually have parts of the Israel lobby turning against Hollywood and the leftist lobby and turning against all those crazy self-hating Jews and other people in Hollywood and in D.C. And there is a civil war really going on inside the Israel lobby to a great extent. And like the cavalry, here comes Netanyahu over here supporting what Trump's doing.
Oh, my God, the cavalry. Netanyahu is coming in to save America. And then China runs America. Here's another good one.
Well, I know. You used to talk about how powerful the Muslims were, and I didn't believe it. But behind the scenes, They run the Federal Reserve, you name it, they're really coming after us. The Arabs have probably more money than the Israel lobby at this point.
Don't worry about the Zionists. It's all the Chi-Coms. It's all the Arabs.
I've seen the jihadists. That does not mean that the Israel...
Okay, here we go.
And then I had this Mossad agent, who's one of the top guys in the country, whose cover is writing for a major magazine. And he gets there, and I go, I know this is really a visit from the Mossad. He goes, well, I'm sure, but well, how'd you know that? I'm not really doing an article. I just want to see what you're planning to do to Israel. And I'm just like, I'm not against Israel. I'm not against anybody. I'm against World War III. And so...
You're against men.
And I have this conversation. I go, look, I know not just Israel was involved in 9/11. I know a bunch of countries were. I think it's wrong that false flags are carried out. And as long as he knew it wasn't personal, he just ran off. What is the other messages that the intelligence community, the Patriots, and what percentage would you say of the intelligence community is awake of 16 agencies? What's their message then to Hillary and the communist Chinese and the Saudi Arabians that run her like a sock puppet?
Oh, my God. Just pathetic. Okay.
And the internet was set up to do this. Google is an NSA spy tool from the 80s. Set up by NQTEL, the Geospatial Center. It's run by Space Command. Google is the U.S. government with a private offshoot that's controlled by the leftists and the globalists. You notice Schmitz had to resign, all the rest that's happening now. So there's a war inside Google, and that's why Steve Pachenik, people say, are you with the CIA or are they with the CIA? No, I'm not with any of that. I'm with the free market in America and freedom.
You're with the Zionist
said the day before my YouTube channel was put back up, the strike's taken off, he said, I've talked to people upstairs inside the agency, and you will have your site back by tomorrow. This will not be tolerated. You do not do what they say, and the Google will not be authoritarian. It was set up to defend the Republic and promote our values worldwide. And that's what went on. And that is it. So,
and ironically,
you're not saying that. You said days before Bloomberg broke that there was a mutiny inside YouTube and Google and they were going to fix it. Everything. You said that you knew that from the Geospatial Center. Tell us as much specifics as you can, because that's big.
Well, I don't want to get into the National Geospatial Agency. All I can tell you is one of our newest intelligence outfits. It's a brilliant collection of individuals from all over the world. These are the guys who and women.
His new intelligence agency is brilliant individuals from all over the world. This is a Zionist cabal that's behind Alex Jones, tied in with Cernovich, Delta Force, Chabad Lubavitch, Unit 8200, all of it.
By the way, it was headed by a woman.
Sure, but you said.
And guess what?
Okay, so this is a guy, a guest that Jones has on his show. He used to be anonymous. He talks about Elon Musk and very suspicious stuff here.
And guess what? I'm planning a big event. Happen. And if you think you're going to reach out to me, if you think you're going to touch me, you're not going to do nothing. I'm in Marrakesh. If you want to come find me, come find me. The people who you want to kill me like me more than you. You're not going to do it. God is great. You're not going to do a thing. You're not going to do anything.
Well, I will say, people say, who's Zachary Lee Claywon?
You ain't going to do nothing.
But I'll say this. I've talked to some of the sources that have talked to you. I know you are talking to Kanye and talking to Elon and friends with these folks. And so
Kanye and Elon. Kanye's involved as well, too. Somebody sent me an email. There was a Kardashian show, she's married to Kanye, where they were talking about, they mentioned Jared Kushner like 15 times and how great he was, and he's helping them with all of this prison reform and stuff. Kanye is part of this psyop as well. Who supports Kanye?
The stuff you've said's all come true, and I've talked to some of the other folks, so they say you're a good guy, and I appreciate you coming on air to talk about this. Most people won't come on who are high-level officers and stuff because they've obviously been threatened, but they get authorized to come on the air and talk about this.
Listen, I think these people are going to be flat-footed after the midterms. They don't know what they're dealing with. The movements are in place. The movements are in place.
Well, yeah, repeat, because what you said last night.
I need to bring up the air quit shit.
All right, lay on that again. I know you're upset, Zach. I never heard you like this. Now you're freaked out. What do you say, bring up what?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, they know I've been covertly funding. Yes, they know I've been covertly funding former special operations, dev group people, others, working with some other patriots and getting the key intel and research that then gets farmed out. We're here at the Pacific Missile Range. This is the furthest western island, major inhabited island of the Hawaiian chain, Kauai. And on the western edge of this, we are standing on the furthest western piece of U.S. territory. Just a few thousand miles away is the island of Japan.
I'll have some questions for him about Trump's administration's
consideration
of hiring a spy.
Okay, watch this.
Trump's administration's
consideration of hiring a spy team of its own. And I'm also going to hear from.
So the Trump administration hiring a spy team of their own.
Also going to hear from Alex Jones here in the first hour.
No, and Pat Raleigh with his son. Bring him on over.
Hey, can we get Alex a chair and mic, please? Come on, sit down, Alex. I actually want to know.
I'm going to leave, but listen.
Do you know about this, Alex?
Trump gossip editor rocked, or no, top gossip editor rocked by sex allegations. No, I don't know.
No, I'm talking about this story. Trump White House weighing plans for private spies to counter deep state enemies.
Private spies. Trump getting private spies to counter deep state enemies.
So now they're going to be working with Eric Prince from Blackwater, and Mike Pompeo is basically going to set up his own team of spies.
Eric Prince and Mike Pompeo, two huge Zionists. Eric Prince, his I think his sister, or he's married to, Betsy DeVos. I always get it mixed up. She was the head of the Department of Education, trying to pass essentially the same definition of the same definition of anti-Semitism that Trump just signed with the executive order. Here's Expose the Enemy, Blackwater. Eric Prince was buddies with the guy that founded Council for National Policy, a Zionist think tank group, and Leahy, and he's also the author of the Left Behind series. It's all about the rapture and the Zionist end times. And Eric Prince has close associations with Russia as well, tying them in as well. Eric Prince and the Council for National Policy. His sister-in-laws, the DeVos family, are mainstays and financiers of the Council for National Policy. Jerome Corsi is involved with that as well. Remember, he was working for InfoWars. So here we go. Just a little background there.
Sex allegations. No, I don't know.
No, I'm talking about this story. Trump White House weighing plans for private spies to counter deep state enemies. So now they're going to be working with Eric Prince from Blackwater, and Mike Pompeo is basically going to set up his own team of spies to go against the anti-Trump people inside the Mueller administration. Yes, I did know about that. So it looks like they're going full bore, and they are.
What do you think you're doing here, my friend?
What do you think you're doing here, my friend? Owen Schroyer is working for. Alex Jones says Owen Schroyer is working for Eric Prince, Steve Pieczenik, and Pompeo. How about that?
Well, I thought I was working for Russia. What, are you telling me I don't work for Russia?
No, yeah, Russia's tied in with all of it too.
So now they're going to be working with Eric Prince from Blackwater, and Mike Pompeo is basically going to set up his own team of spies to go against the anti-Trump people inside the Mueller administration. Yes, I did know about that. So it looks like they're going full bore, and they are going to be fighting. What do you think you're doing
here, my friend?
Well, I thought I was working for Russia. What, are you telling me I don't work for Russia?
No, you work for. And there's a key person in that, and he knows all the big players. Farrakhan, Congressman, Senator Rand Paul, all of it, okay? Because of his connections. And I'm going to leave it at that. But this is all Louis Farrakhan involved. This has all got Rand Paul involved. This is high-level groups.
Yuck. The Silicon Valley sultans had to fall in line, and Elon Musk did.
Elon Musk did.
Because they saw what happened to the actual sultans in Saudi Arabia. And as we spoke about months ago, the viewers could pick it up. I told everybody, first year salvage, second year savage. And what we're seeing right now is nothing short of remarkable. And I'm just telling you right now, Kwok will be extradited and Assange will be in the United States within about a week.
He predicted that. Assange is got arrested out of the embassy.
And that's going to be a switch that's going to happen. And, here's the last thing. So I left Casablanca yesterday in Morocco. I had to go there for certain things. But Elon Musk is a patriot. Assange is a patriot. Elon Musk has a lot of interest in the Sahara and making huge solar farms as he does in Australia. And I can tell you right now that Musk is a fan of yours. I could tell you the same way. Maybe
you hear that? Musk is a fan of Alex Jones. How about that? Watch this. Hold on. Elon Musk, Ghislaine Maxwell. We'll show that one real quick. Elon Musk and Ghislaine Maxwell. There's Trump and Melania and Ghislaine and Epstein as well. Rumor has it that Ghislaine or Epstein introduced Trump and Melania. And then let's do Elon Musk and Peter Thiel. The PayPal Mafia. The PayPal Mafia. Alex Jones has said positive things about Peter Thiel as well. And the new PayPal guy, Pierre Omidyar, who's Indian, I believe. He was funding, Whitney Webb did an article, Pierre Omidyar, who is involved with eBay and with PayPal, he is funding the ADL Trust Project, the Silicon Valley lab with the artificial intelligence to do all the algorithms and censor the anti-Semites online, along with the Craigslist billionaire who is a 100% Ashkenazi Jew that also funds to Chabad Lubavitch. I think Mark Newark was his name. But see, Peter Thiel and Elon Musk, two members of the PayPal Mafia. So tying it in with the facial recognition company that we started with, and Peter Thiel.
Know who I was back then, but Farrakhan was a fan of yours. The problem is the image, and they think, all the...
No, I'll just say it now. It wasn't off the record, but I can't even get into it. I mean, that's incredible. Hold on. Stay right there. We'll be right back on the other side with our real QAnon.
QAnon, huh?
Outside of Cape Canaveral there, and that's Elon Musk fulfilling a DOD contract, which he's done plenty of all of a sudden, which ties into the Spectrum bug. You were alluding to it a couple minutes ago as I was listening. That is the backdoors into the microprocessors of everything.
Backdoors into the microprocessors of everything. We're talking Qualcomm chips, we're talking Intel chips, AMD chips all over in Israel. Backdoors, kill switches into all of it, tying in with this whole Netanyahu, Paul Singer, Unit 8200 tech transfer.
Okay, here's the deal. The Silicon Valley sultans have fell in line because they saw what happened to Schmidt, and they're not untouchable. Elon Musk has picked his side. He's in with DOD, but we have collected a lot of information.
Wow. Today, we're going to... He knows Elon Musk have been reached out to and basically have been resonating with, especially if you talk about somebody like Elon Musk with the bigger plan. Now, what is the bigger plan?
Well, the bigger plan I just explained in this whole video, and that's the end of it there. John Swin has a great article. If I can find it, he needs a search option on this, but it ties QAnon and Cambridge Analytica all to Posobiec involved, Jack Posobiec, but that's about all I got to do for now. It's 2.5 hours. My throat is ripped up. Thanks, everybody, for watching. I will read the entropies. If you guys want to get a question in on everything I just covered, question or comment, I will drop the entropy link in right now, and I'll try to keep an eye on the live chat. Here's the entropy link. It's the alternative to super chats. I had my super chats demonetized about 6 months ago. And DLive, I'm gonna empty the chests and then wrap it up here. Thanks everybody for watching. A hell of a show, a lot of information. And I've been waiting to present this one for a few days. I don't know anybody else that does it quite like this, with all this info jam-packed so fast. This company, completely Zionist, completely Israel, completely Chabad Lubavitch, it's just, we're in big trouble. I don't know how to get the message out. Like the hyper-normalization documentary said, we're stuck in the echo chambers where my videos are getting less views than ever. My subscriber growth is slower than ever. They're just completely squashing any dissent. I'm lucky I'm even still on. I don't know what the answer is. Get out. It's, now once they shut it down online, people are going to be going out and protesting in public, and they're going to be using cameras to get everybody's faces and label you a domestic terrorist or something, or just, it seems like that's where it's all going. They have the full end times dystopian nightmare movie coming into view. All right, entropy. We say, Adam, do you get my message about solution to Zog? It's all of Mike Gravel's new book. I don't know. I think I've heard the name Mike Gravel. Resend it to me. The contact page on No More News. Go contact. Put it in through there, and that's the best way to do it. If you guys want to send me letters to my P.O. box, donations, make it a gift. Make sure to write gift in the memo there. That's here, nomorenews.org, or there's the donate page, Patreon, Subscribestar, Bitcoin, P.O. box, and then I have a new donate button here as well. It's through another system. If you want to support content like this, it takes a lot of time to do all this research and present. I can't do it without you guys. Every dollar helps. If you value this content and want to help spread the truth, it's going to be a group effort. And if you can't help financially, just educate yourself, talk to everybody you know, spread the message on any platform that you can. Keep me anonymous, please. Keep up the good work. Thank you for the support. All right, let's see here. D-Live. All right, the chest has been emptied. Beware of the Third Temple takeover. Let me show you guys something real quick. I've already gone so long, I've given up on trying to be short here. Check out this new clip. This is just out today about the peace deal.
And it talks about historic status quo in the holy site in Jerusalem. You dig more in the details, they are calling for.
So this is a Palestinian official talking about Trump's new steal of the century peace deal and how it's about they're annexing the Temple Mount and they're going to take it over.
The so-called, they refer to the Temple Mount, which is Al-Haram al-Sharif. It is Al-Haram al-Sharif. They want to open it to prayers for whom they call all religious parties, meaning that mosque, that Al-Haram al-Sharif, now they want to divide it in a similar way to what they did in Al-Haram al-Ibrahimi and Al-Khalil. Muslims can...
So he's saying they want to split the Temple Mount. They've already been having clashes, and they've been stormed. The Israeli settlers have been storming it and praying and getting in fights with the IDF, or the IDF supporting them as they storm the Temple Mount. And then he says, just like they did with the El Ibrahimi Mosque, that's the Hebron Mosque where Baruch Goldstein, the Kahani Zionist terrorist, went in and murdered like 30 Muslims praying. And then after he went in and murdered everybody, the Jews split the mosque in half and turned half of it into a synagogue. So they want to try to get first they're going to start with half, just like they build the settlements and the illegal settlements in the West Bank, and then they're annexing those. And then now they want to get, they say it's the status quo on the Temple Mount. Then they can get on, and I should do a whole separate video on this, but they get on the Temple Mount, they say half of it's ours, and then they'll try to say the whole thing's ours, or they'll blow it up. And let's get real. Hold on, I'll play it.
On Ibrahimi and Al-Khalil. Muslims can only pray during their prayer time, and then they leave. They allow the Jews to come and to pray there, which is violation of the historic status quo. So they say something.
So remember, they said Trump includes apparent contradiction over prayer rights at the Temple Mount. They said we're going to keep the status quo, but then they also say, but now we're going to be able to pray there. That's not the status quo.
Muslims can only pray during their prayer time, and then they leave. They allow the Jews to come and to pray there, which is violation of the historic status quo. So they say something in one hand that looks deceiving. You dig into the details, you see that it is in essence violating it, and they wanted to divide Al-Haram as
the Temple Mount. It's funny how he says it. They say one thing, but they're deceiving you, and if you look at the details, actually it's totally different. Double speak, like we see time and time again with these psychos.
We call it taqsim zamani wa makani, to divide it in terms of time and place, to allow for the prayers of non-Muslims in that holy site, in order to invite the process of trying to annex part of it and eventually to take it over.
So hear that? They want to. He thinks that the Jews want to annex the Temple Mount. First, they want to get half of it, split it, then they want to annex it, and then they want to take it over, which is obviously their plan. Jews don't want to go pray to the Dome of the Rock. They want to pray on the temple, obviously.
Just giving examples.
It has a picture of the temple itself. We hope that the declarations of both Cyrus and Trump will lead to the rebuilding of the third temple.
When? When is the building?
Very soon. We've already started.
Yeah?
Yes.
And when it's due to be completed?
That depends on how fast the workers work and how quickly we can collect the money from the treasury.
How is it going to be conducted? On the same location where the Mount Sharif is?
There's only one place that it can be done in the whole world, and that is the place of the Temple Mount. That's why.
There's only one place where the temple can go, and it's on the place of the Temple Mount. Here's the Temple Institute's graphic with Google Earth showing you the temple right on top of the Dome of the Rock.
It's called the Temple Mount, and of course that's where it's going to be.
So how is it going to happen?
How is it going to happen? Yeah. That we're going to leave part of it up to God, but I can tell you clearly that the Al-Aqsa Mosque.
It talks about
the Al-Aqsa Mosque has just gotta go. Follow me on Twitter if you guys want to see the whole thread that I did here about the temple stuff. I guess I'm gonna have to do another temple video soon with some updated stuff. But anyway, guys, that is all for now. Adam Green, No More News. Like, share, subscribe, spread the message. If you support this content, please donate if you can. NoMoreNews.org. DLive, BitChute, Patreon, Subscribestar, No More News 2. And that's all. Thanks everyone for watching, and I will see you guys in a couple days. Have a nice weekend.